Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ambassador Inamul Haq, Chairman, Board of Governors, Islamabad Policy Research Institute, Honorable Senator Mashahid Hussain Sayyid Saab, Ambassador Sardar Masood Khan Saab, Muhtarma Farzana Yaqoob Sahiba, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Islamabad Policy Research Institute. We have gathered here today to renounce the revocation of Article 370 and Article 35A as an act of Indian Parliament in August 2019, which marked a critical moment in the history of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, fundamentally altering the political and constitutional status. What was presented as an administrative and constitutional reform has over the past 7 years evolved into a far-reaching transformation of the regional, political, demographic, and socio-economic landscape. New domicile regulations, changes to land ownership laws, electoral delimitation, and administrative restructuring have raised serious concerns regarding the alteration of the demographic composition of and political identity of the territory. These developments have been accompanied by reports of restrictions on civil liberties, including prolonged detentions, curbs on freedom of expression and assembly, media restrictions, internet shutdowns, and shrinking civic spaces. The human rights violations since 2019 are as flashed on the screen. There have been more than 1,000 killings in the last 7 years. 294 custodial killings, more than 2,500 tortured and injured, more than 34,000 incarcerated, more than 1,000 cases of arson, then women widowed, children orphaned, and women raped. Human rights organizations have repeatedly highlighted concerns which are related to arbitrary detentions, excessive use of force, enforced disappearances, restrictions on political participations, and limitations on access to justice. These cumulative effects of these measures has generated during a growing debate over the implications of the identity, representation, and rights of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, as well as for the regional peace and stability. 7 years after the constitutional changes of 2019, it is important to move beyond headlines and critically assess how the realities on ground have evolved, what challenges remain, and what these developments mean for the future of the region. Today's discussion provides a timely opportunity to examine these developments from multiple perspectives, assess their humanitarian and political consequences, and foster an informed dialogue on one of the South Asia's most enduring and consequential issues. Who better than the distinguished panel of experts and eminent scholars who have honored us with their presence today can offer the insights and enlighten us on the prevailing situation and its far-reaching implications on the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Let us listen to them now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Please allow me to introduce our keynote speaker for today's seminar, Senator Mashahid Hussain Sayyid. So the floor is always yours.
Shukriya. Thank you very much. In the name of the Almighty, the Lord of all mankind, Assalamu alaikum and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am very grateful to IPRI, Pakistan's preeminent think tank, Islamabad Policy Research Institute, which I had the honor and distinction of founding in 1999, and which is now, as when I was Minister for Information, in the aftermath of Pakistan's nuclear tests and the Kargil conflict. And I felt that there is a need, since Pakistan will now be in the eye of the storm, as it were, there is a need in the battle of ideas to have a rapid response, professional outfit which can respond with facts, logic, and wisdom to the challenges that Pakistan will feel in the battle of ideas. And I'm very happy that now it is currently headed by Lieutenant General Majid Ahsan, a thinking general, whose article this morning, today, in the Express Tribune on the need for dialogue is, I would say, a must-read for those who want to resolve the issues of insurgencies in different parts of Pakistan. And thank you, General Saab, for a job well done. And I think please send a copy of that to GHQ, ISI, MI, IIB, etc., etc., etc. And I also want to compliment Mr. Inamul Haq. He is a veteran of the Pakistani Diplomatic Corps, and he has been I would say, there's a title given to the monarch of England called Defender of the Faith. And I think he's the defender of Pakistan's faith in terms of our identity, our ideology, our national interest on multiple fronts. And I've seen him in action personally. Thank you. And Shoaib Sadal Saab is here. I will ask him for a CV because he needs to be commandeer to be the counter-terrorism czar, especially handling these issues, because he has tremendous expertise. And once upon a time, he was my neighbor in E7 in Islamabad as a young police officer. And of course, Sardar Masood Saab is somebody who is a multifaceted personality and most articulate spokesman on Kashmir that we have had in his different incarnations, whether in Islamabad or Muzaffarabad or Washington, D.C. And Fardana Saiba, you remind me of Chairman Mao saying, women hold half the sky. On Kashmir, you're holding more than half the sky, mashallah. And we are proud of it. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk of Kashmir, we should not forget the father of the nation, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. His policy on Kashmir was articulated, as well as on Palestine, before the creation of Pakistan. So Pakistan's policy, when he said it is a jugular vein of Pakistan, this is Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And he was willing to go to war on this issue after the Indian aggression in 1947, after the creation of Pakistan. So Kashmir is not just an integral part of Pakistan, a pillar of Pakistan's foreign policy or core national interest, it's part of our DNA. And I would say it's the missing K in Pakistan, P-A-K-I-S-T-A-N. So we should be very clear that how significant the role of Kashmir is. I also want to recognize my wife is here, who's a prominent historian, Professor Dr. Dushka. She said, especially as expression of solidarity, she'll be here. Her latest book is coming out, which is on accession of Kashmir and Kalat. She's written 2 other books, so I'm glad there's also academia present, and that will make also a difference. I would also like to present a certain historical context, that there are 2 countries in the world which are fascist, which are racist, which are expansionist, and which are serial violators of the United Nations resolutions and international law: India and Israel. And both have now developed a nexus, ideologically, strategically, politically, militarily, and also intelligence-wise, because they have the same worldview. Hindutva is there, Zionism is there, and the regime in Tel Aviv and the regime in Delhi have that special camaraderie, which is based on an anti-Islam nexus. So that should be very clearly understood. When we talk of August 5th, I'll focus on 2 areas, particularly the geopolitics of August 5th and also Pakistan's policy, which was there and which should be now on this issue of Jammu and Kashmir, which is so central to our core interests. Indians had reasoned well. They had seen 3 different contexts in their relationships. Their relationship with the United States, their relationship with China, and their relationship with Pakistan. And I think the timing was determined by that context. They had planned it. Modi came to power on 2014, and he had already mentioned it in the BJP election manifesto that they will revoke Article 370. This is part of their agenda, stated agenda. But the timing was chosen for a certain reason, because they felt that that was, in their view, a conducive moment for India to take that big initiative to really break everything that they had done in the last 70 years, whether United Nations Security Council resolutions, whether the Simla Agreement, whether the Lahore Declaration and other interactions, including the talks that the Indian Foreign Minister had with the Pakistan Foreign Minister in 1962-63, and including the composite dialogue of 1997, where they've mentioned Kashmir as a dispute which should be discussed and negotiated with Pakistan. And so they reversed all of that in one go on 5th of August 2019. First, the US part. At that time, the relationship was very strong. And if you remember, Pulwama, which was a false flag operation like Pahalgam of India, in February 2019, there, the United States, led by the National Security Advisor John Bolton, supported India, according to him, the right of self-defense against terrorism, cross-border terrorism. This was the formulation of the United States of America. By the way, this is different now. The Trump policy now has changed. But that time, they endorsed the Indian narrative. They supported the Indian narrative. And when India launched an aggression against Pakistan for the first time after 71. They crossed the international border to bomb Balakot, which is part of Pakistan. And then we responded in kind and we shot down 2 of their planes, captured Abhinandan, who was then released under pressure of the United States when Pompeo called General Bajwa. And Pompeo's book, In the Line of Duty, mentions that. So that was number one factor. The US, they felt the US is behind us all the way. At that time, the US was also building up India as a counterweight to China, a policy that is no longer valid. So that the American factor was one factor. The second factor they felt was, the Indian side, was geopolitically that their relations with China had improved. And if you remember, in September 2018, they had a long meeting in Wuhan between Xi Jinping and Modi. It was a 10-hour interaction spread over 3 days, and there was a special bonhomie. And both sides were keen to develop their relationship, and China was having an outreach also, and India was also having an outreach, and they felt that China is also softened up, and China would not be maybe little murmurs here and there, but it'll be fine. So that front is also covered. And the third thing was Pakistan. And unfortunately, Pakistan at that time did not have strategic clarity on relations with India or with on Kashmir issue, because the feeling was that India had sent some overtures. We had started in November 2018 the building of the Kartarpur corridor, which is a very good initiative. And at that time, the Indians were also feeling some pressures. They were talking of a new ceasefire on the line of control. And they felt that Pakistan is too busy with internal situation. And there was a view in the Pakistani system at that time that we should have an outreach to India. We should have freeze the status quo. We should have trade with India, and India-Pakistan relations would improve. And that was that feeling. So they felt that the Pakistani reaction would be somewhat muted. So the mistake they made after 5th August was that on 7th of August 2019, Modi's henchman, principal henchman, Amit Shah, whose son Jay Shah is the head of the International Cricket Conference, by the way, and head of the Indian Cricket Council, he made a statement in the Lok Sabha, Amit Shah. He said that the next target of India is going to be 3, Muzaffarabad, Azad Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan, and they started giving the weather of Gilgit and Muzaffarabad in their TVs, and Aksai Chin. Aksai Chin is a part of China. And for China, their territorial integrity is a red line. Whether it's Taiwan or Xinjiang or Hong Kong or Tibet, on that they are willing to go to war. There's no question. Because they have been through a century of humiliation. So when Aksai Chin is the area which links Xinjiang with Tibet, and Amit Shah foolishly proclaimed that this is part of India, and we will also, we will lay claim to it. And you can see within 10 days of that, China, at Pakistan's behest, raised the issue in the United Nations Security Council with the support of Russia, which was neutral then. The opposition came from UK and France. America was neutral. So at that time, in August 15th or 16th it was, 2019, the UN Security Council in a closed session for the first time discussed this issue when China initiated that. China took the initiative later on also. But for us, it was a mixed opportunity. I remember the first meeting where it was called. I was, as the chairman of the Defense Committee of the Senate, was also invited. It was a closed-door meeting in the Foreign Office. Foreign Minister was there. Chairman Kashmir Committee was there. DG ISI, DG MO, DG ISPR, and everybody. Now, I was the only there were other political participants also. Jamaat Islami was there. Other parties were there also. I was the only participant who came with a written note, a memorandum, giving a strategy paper that what needs to be done in this context. It was a 3-pager, and it was bullet points, tuck, tuck, tuck. This is the situation, this is the consequences, and this is what needs to be done from the Pakistani side. Unfortunately, not all that was happening. So this was a missed opportunity for Pakistan. And why do I say it was a missed opportunity? You can see, and I'll give you 3 factual incidents. In October 2020, the Foreign Office issued the dossier. It's 43 pages, State Terrorism of India, which includes Kashmir, other areas against Pakistan, which listed 23 training camps of Pakistani terrorists in India, supported by them, and the rest were in Afghanistan. At that time, the Americans were still in Afghanistan. So this was state terrorism, and they shared a copy. And I said this should be really publicized. It was published, but it was never pursued. So that opportunity to put India in the dock in the aftermath of what they had done in Kashmir, that was missed. Second, there was a 73-page document issued by the Kashmir Khalistan Referendum Front, an American-based organization. They went to court against Modi. Modi was going to Houston in September 2019. That famous meeting, Howdy Modi, and Trump was going to host him. And they went to a court. There's a law in America, 1991, Victim Torture Protection Act, that if you have been victim of a torture outside the United States of America, and you are living now in the United States, you can still use American courts to punish the perpetrator of that torture in a foreign country. And they've used it for Latin America, for Chile, for El Salvador, for Guatemala. They went to court with a lawyer who was a Sikh lawyer, Khalistani lawyer, and 2 plaintiffs who were Kashmiris. And the case was there, and they were issuing warrants of arrest for Mr. Modi. All right. Then the signal went from our side, Haath Hola Rakhe. There were 2 hearings, and those who had the petitioners, they did not show up because the line was good. Mr. Modi or something, Haath Hola Rakhe, we will not pursue the case. So that was a missed opportunity. And the third missed opportunity was when the Indians sought a ceasefire with Pakistan. Because the Indians realized when they made the mistake of mentioning Aksai Chin, the Chinese were riled up, and Chinese said, we will teach you a lesson. And you know what happened in Galwan? June 2020, when with spikes and with nails and with batons, 22 Indian soldiers were killed, and there was a hand-to-hand combat because they can't use firearms in that area. A line of actual control, they call it, LSC, India and China. So after that, Chinese were worried about a 2-front situation. So they sought a ceasefire. And I remember some briefings were given to us by that period by the system at that time. They said, India is willing to talk on Kashmir also. They are willing to have a settlement. I said, not at all. They are lying. They lied. Swaran Singh lied to Mr. Bhutto. They have lied in also other occasions. This is just a tactical relief they're seeking because of the China factor, Chinese pressure. And don't get taken into it. But anyway, so in February 2021, we agreed to the ceasefire. Indians, they got a certain relief. They felt this area is covered, and they shifted their troops from here to the Chinese border. So I think that those kind of mistakes which were made should not be repeated. Now we have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where Pakistan, mashallah, has I think, was one of our finest hours in diplomacy. It was one of the finest hours also in conflict. I think we have had 3 finest hours in the last 50 years. Number 1, 1974, Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto organized the Lahore Islamic Summit after what happened in Bangladesh. And everybody showed up, the top leadership of that period, co-hosted by King Faisal Shahid, Yasser Arafat, Wari Boumediene, Hafiz al-Assad, Anwar al-Sadat, Muammar al-Qaddafi, even Sheikh Mujib came. So, it was it really Pakistan's stature, especially in the Muslim area and the Middle East, was there. It was the Islamic conference. And the PLO was recognized as the sole legitimate representative of the people of Palestine for the first time in Lahore in 1974. The second one was, and I had the honor to be the information minister then and the chief spokesman when we went nuclear. But that was a key decision to go nuclear. And that has been the saving grace to preserve and protect and promote Pakistan's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity. Despite pressures, our nuclear scientists, our leadership, civil and military contributed to this quarter-century journey from 1974 till 1998. So that was the final star. And the third one was last year and also this year, our role in defense and diplomacy. So given this context, I think it's very important that we should have a strategic clarity on our relationship with India. Mr. Modi is not Mr. Vajpayee. The RSS has a certain animus. They are against the two-nation theory. They are against the existence of Pakistan. They want to hurt Pakistan. And they only understand the language of force. That if we can hit back, they know that. And we have done it in after Pulwama, they've done it after Pahalgam, and we'll do it again, inshallah, if they try to do anything negative for us. So India has strategic clarity on Pakistan. They want to demonize Pakistan. They want to destabilize Pakistan. They want to damage Pakistan. So we should also have strategic clarity on handling India policy and on handling Kashmir policy. And there should be no wavering on that there were tactical retreats or taken in by other things. And we have, mashallah, right now we are a member of the UN Security Council. We have not raised the Kashmir issue at all. People talk of other issues, but I don't remember the word Kashmir being mentioned by our representatives in New York. This term is going to end in December, so that is number one. We are also members of the Board of Peace, which Trump has established. And the Board of Peace is supposed to be focusing on global conflict resolution, not just Palestine. We should have raised that issue in that platform also. And I said then also, why not? Because if they talk of global conflict resolution, the oldest conflict is Kashmir. It's on the UN Security Council statutes also. So that should be done. I think continue to internationalize. The second thing is, I would say that is number one, strategic clarity. The second one is healing the wounds in Azad Kashmir. Azad Kashmir is a base camp. I think mistakes have been made. We need a course correction in Azad Kashmir. The people of Azad Kashmir are probably more patriotic Pakistanis than anybody in Pakistan. They have suffered, they have sacrificed. And those sacrifices should not go in vain. And if we have made mistakes, there has to be a course correction. I will ask those who make the policies to read General Majid Ahsan's article, The Need for Dialogue. I think that applies to that situation also. And finally, I remember going to China, and Chairman Mao used to say, when he's talking of negotiations or protracted conflict, he said the strategy should be talk, talk, fight, fight. When you need to talk, you talk. When you need to fight, you fight. So you should be ready for both eventualities. We are ready for talks. In my view, the understanding that has been arrived by President Trump and President Xi Jinping after their meeting in Beijing, and they'll have another meeting in September or October in Washington, I think they have reached an understanding that they want to diffuse issues. America has accepted they cannot combat or confront or contain China. President Trump has announced G2. Accepted China as a country on the basis of equality. And I think they will have an understanding on Korea, Ukraine, Middle East, and South Asia. And you will see pressure on Mr. Modi to start talking to Pakistan and to reverse some of his anti-Pakistan policies. And that may bear fruit in the next 6 months, inshallah. So given that context, Pakistan needs to be strategically clear. We have a strong case It's a moral, legal, and political case. And as General Majid Ahsan said, in any insurgency, in any freedom struggle, the center of gravity is the people. And the people of occupied Kashmir are very clear. They want azadi. They reject Indian occupation. So that is the bottom line. The status quo is no longer tenable. And we should start from that. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
The next speaker for today's seminar is Sardar Masood Khan. Sardar Masood Khan is a distinguished Pakistani diplomat. So it will be a very humble one actually.
नहीं जी इन्होंने बहुत मुख्तसर लिखा है Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent. Ambassador Inam al-Haq, General Majid Ahsan, Senator Mushahid Hussain, Farzana Yaqub, all the dignitaries who are sitting here in the front row. It's always a pleasure, and the students who are sitting here. I hope Mr. Mushahid Hussain Sayyed is not leaving. He's coming back because I'm leaving. There are multiple events, and they have used the bracket of 11 to 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. So I'll have to excuse myself after delivering my remarks. So I should speak for 20 minutes. I think that very substantive and erudite presentation has been given by Senator Mushahid Hussain. He's interspersed it with his own rich experience as a statesman, as an academic, as a journalist. So I think that everybody has been really informed about the dynamics of the Kashmir dispute and what Pakistan ought to be doing. Well, first thing that I want to say is that Article 370 of the Indian Constitution was also an illegal instrument, declared as such by the United Nations Security Council, because any unilateral measures that were taken after the matter had been referred to the United Nations Security Council did not hold any validity, because this was a unilateral action. This needs to be understood because the dispensation suggested by the United Nations Security Council was that a plebiscite should be held under the auspices of the United Nations. And the Nehru government, as a matter of fact, misled the people of Jammu and Kashmir. He started using the term or the terminology of plebiscite in order to first attack and occupy the part of the Jammu and Kashmir territory. He wanted to occupy the entire territory, but because of our valiant freedom struggle, we staved them off and we did not let them occupy the entire state. So Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Kashmir were liberated. But then he'd promised a plebiscite to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. This had been repeated by Lord Mountbatten, and therefore, in January the 1st, 1948, he took the issue to the United Nations Security Council in the hope that, respecting the weight of India as one of the largest countries and also the charisma of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, that the Security Council would rule against Pakistan, because we had the Azad Kashmir forces there, and they were supported by the tribals and gradually by the armed forces of Pakistan, that they would evacuate the territory and that India would have an opportunity to move into Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan and integrate this territory also into the Indian Union. Now, so when Article 370 was rescinded, in fact, it was a repeal of an illegal act that already had been taken, illegal action that had already been taken. 35A was different because it had preserved the rights of the people of Jammu and Kashmir in regard to ownership of land, also jobs and their admission in educational institutions, and there are a series of privileges that they had. And this state of affairs was frozen by Maharaja of Kashmir in the late 1920s. So this needs to be understood that you can't club together these two articles. One was, of course, legitimate, and it represented inalienable rights of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And the other was a contraption fabricated by India. But by the time, what did it give to the Article 370? What did it give to the people of Jammu and Kashmir? It gave them a semblance of autonomy. But this article was hollowed out by the time it was repealed, because Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah was commandeered by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, and others using their charm offensive, and they assured him that they would give him autonomy and they would also give him independence in due course, respecting the will of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. They were against accession to Pakistan. But what happens is that they start with the Prime Minister and President, as we have in Azad Kashmir, but then gradually Sheikh Abdullah's successor, Sheikh Abdullah, was in fact betrayed and imprisoned, but after that, when he was in prison, his successors diluted Article 370, and the titles were changed to the Chief Minister and Governor. And that status is maintained up to this day, but there have been many changes. When Article 370 was repealed, India, as it was mentioned by General Majid Ahsan, it was divided into two territories illegally and reduced the two territories to union territories. Union territories is like Islamabad Capital Territory. That it would have the writ of Delhi, the federal government, and not of this so-called autonomous region. And as mentioned by General Majid Ahsan and Senator Mushahid, that a series of actions were taken after August the 5th, 2019. They have been enumerated already. What I want to highlight is that after the repeal, there was a groundswell of support for Pakistan's point of view, and also Kashmiris. All over the world, the international media covered it extensively, whether it were the most conservative papers and the most liberal papers in the United Kingdom, in Europe, in Canada, Australia, and the United States that covered this issue extensively. They were also apprehensive that if there was no intervention made, the entire situation might spiral to nuclear escalation, which would be an apocalypse for the entire humanity, not just for India and Pakistan, not just for South Asian neighborhood, but for the entire world. Something very unfortunate happened because during that time, the government of Pakistan was also very active. We raised the issue of Jammu and Kashmir in the Security Council 3 times. Informal sessions were held. And I recall that only China, the only veto-wielding power, supported us in the informals and in public statements. 3 countries opposed any action or movement towards a product or a resolution or a statement. And these were the United States, United Kingdom, and France. Because of their objections, we could not get a resolution out of the Security Council, although we were not a member of the Security Council at that time. This was one untoward development. The second was COVID-19. When we had reached out to the rest of the world, everything was shut down because of the pandemic. And India, under this cover, accelerated its other implementation of its other policies. One was, of course, demographic changes. And as of today, 4.2 million people from Himachal Pradesh, from Haryana, from Punjab, from Bihar, from Bengal, from Maharashtra, from Rajasthan, and most of them Brahmins, have been moved into not only Jammu but also in the valley of Kashmir to reduce the percentage of Muslims in the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir's population. The second thing that they did was, and very few people know that, this demographic changes have been taking place over time. It was not an altogether new phenomenon, because they had given residence to what they called Hindu refugees from West Pakistan. You also had these Safai Karamcharis, the Khakrobs, and many others, and they had also imported labor from all these states that I have mentioned. So there was this movement towards Kashmir in a very planned manner, even before August the 5th, 2019. Well, electoral engineering, the new constituencies have been delimited in a manner that they have reduced the representation of the Muslims. They have increased about 6 or 7, I don't recall the exact number, of seats for Jammu, by 1 seat for the Valley of Kashmir, and 5 seats are at the discretion of the Lieutenant Governor, who is an unelected official working on behalf of New Delhi. So on December 2023, the Indian Supreme Court, in response to a reference that was made, gave its verdict, and it has 3 significant points. One, they validate and endorse the decision that was taken by the BJP government. They said that this is valid, that there can't be sovereignty within a sovereign state, that the Jammu and Kashmir cannot be a sovereign territory, and so autonomy should not be conflated with any kind of semblance of sovereignty. And they said that in any case, this was a temporary measure. 370 was a temporary measure. It did not give a permanent status to the Jammu and Kashmir state. Second was they called for the elections. Elections were held in 2024, September and October 2024. A government was formed. And the third was restoration of the statehood. And when we're talking about this restoration of the statehood, what they mean is elevating the territory, the occupied territory, or the 2 territories, to the level of provinces, not the kind of autonomy or status or distinct persona, legal persona that they had before the repeal of Article 370. I don't know how many of you read a report by special rapporteurs, 5 special rapporteurs, which was issued by them in October 2025. This is after Marka-e-Haq. You would recall that after Pahalgam, India falsely accused Pakistan of its involvement in that incident, and then they moved to incarcerate and arrest and torture hundreds of Kashmiris, and they were enforced disappearances. So what happens after that? That they started demolishing their houses. They would demolish their commercial centers, and the report of the special rapporteurs says a couple of interesting things, and I think that they must be chronicled here and they must be circulated. One thing that they say is that all these steps that were taken by India were illegal. Second, what they say very interestingly, that the justification given by India for these actions, these draconian actions that they had taken, invoking their PSA, Public Safety Act, and unlawful activities prevention Act, that these were in fact illegal. So it repeats the theme that these are illegal laws, that repeat the theme or the language or phraseology that was originally used by Amnesty International. Second, they say that India's attack on Pakistan was illegal. They could not have attacked Pakistan because they violated Article 2, paragraph 4 of the United Nations Charter. Second, they said that India seems to have invoked Article 51, but it never informed the United Nations Security Council. So the step that it had taken was illegal. I think that this report should be circulated to the researchers. Second segment of my presentation is, what has Pakistan been doing? Well, so far, Pakistan has kept the issue alive. If you read the accounts of the proceedings of the United Nations from 1948 to 1957, you would realize, particularly I recommend these records to the young researchers and students who are present here today, to read those records, and you would realize in the books written during that period by independent impartial writers, I would tell you that they clearly said that Pakistan's stance was just. So Pakistan has been holding that flame of liberty and freedom for the people of Jammu and Kashmir since then. Pakistan rightfully realizes that Pakistan is incomplete as a state without integration of Kashmir with it. Pakistan has been a passionate advocate for the right to self-determination of the people of Jammu and Kashmir in all fora and international conferences, whether it was the United Nations Security Council, the General Assembly, its committees, Human Rights Council. It has been in touch with special rapporteurs. It has been sending special communications to the leadership of the United Nations, also to the leadership of the leading powers in the world. It is central plank for Pakistan's foreign policy and national policy. And you have so many discourses on Kashmir. So this is the plus side. There have been policy failures, particularly in the recent past. I would say that on April the 20th, 2023, an all-parties coalition government was formed in Azad Kashmir, and that erased, vaporized opposition, and a vacuum, a political vacuum and void was created. And that task was fulfilled by Joint Awami Action Committee. And therefore, they were given the status of an entity. They were in fact received by the Azad government. The Prime Minister and his designated ministers had prolonged conversations and prolonged sessions with them. Then the federal government engaged them. Then all the relevant institutions started talking to them. And this process lasted for 2.5 years. Now, and today we have a situation in Azad Kashmir. It has two very, very dire consequences. One is that the international media, which when I was the president, they used to talk about the issue of Jammu and Kashmir and the situation in Jammu and Kashmir. Today, they are asking questions about and doing programs and interviews about the situation in Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and they're not talking about Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So there's this equivalence of Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. This is a policy failure. We must admit it. Second, there is this equivocation if Azad Kashmir is part of Pakistan or not. For God's sake, we have to fix this, because there is an ambiguity in Article 257 of the Pakistani Constitution, and this has to be addressed one way or the other. We need to fix it, as Senator Mushahid was saying, that communication, and there can be a two-track approach. While we're trying to address the law and order situation, we must remain in touch with the protesters or their leaders, if not the first-tier leaders, the second-tier leaders, so that we can reach a conclusion and resolve this issue. Another thing that I want to say is that tokenism. that we become active on special days, whether it is Kashmir Solidarity Day and or the Yom-e-Istihsal today, or you will have a Black Day, or Yom-e-Shuhada Kashmir, or Yom-e-Shuhada Jammu, and so on. And the rest of the years, we are caught up in our political quarrels and squabbles. And we do not have any time for Kashmir and other pressing issues. Of course, I mean, there are many other pressing issues for the nation of Pakistan. I think that to rectify this approach, we should use international forums, as Senator Mushahid Hussain was saying, that here we have an opportunity to raise the issue of Jammu and Kashmir in the Security Council. I was, in fact, the president of the Security Council last time when Pakistan had the seat. And we did sensitize the Security Council at that time. Also, we raised the issue repeatedly in the General Assembly. I must say that Pakistan's diplomats continue to raise the issue of Jammu and Kashmir in Geneva, in New York, and international conferences. But at the same time, I think that this is a good opportunity. This is the last year of our membership of the Security Council, so we must not lose this opportunity, because then we will get this opportunity after 10 years. Even if there is no action, at least we should invest in awareness raising that this is a very, very serious issue and the international community must pay attention to it. You would recall after Mark-i-Haq, President Trump on his Truth Social post had said, this was the third point, that India and Pakistan should talk on Kashmir. And Marco Rubio had followed up by saying that they should meet in a third country. Because of the two wars between Iran and the United States and Israel, last year in June and this year, which is continuing, the whole issue of Jammu and Kashmir has been overtaken by many other issues. But the world would wake up to this ugly reality that Kashmir is a nuclear flashpoint and they must pay attention to it. Now, as I have said many times, I think we can't get justice from these institutions, international multilateral institutions, by just marking these days. Because we will have to turn this movement into an international civil rights movement. And there's a very strong, robust international civil rights movement for the statehood of Palestine. Have they succeeded? Even they have not succeeded. 3/4 of the United Nations members have voted for the statehood of Palestine. They haven't succeeded. When you had to finish apartheid in South Africa, you had to mobilize the international community at a massive scale. And here we think that someday the United Nations Security Council would hand over a dispensation on Kashmir on a platter. That's not going to happen. Particularly talking to the young people who are present here, this is what I want to say. You must understand that Pakistan is incomplete without Jammu and Kashmir. And for that, you'll have to read history. Pakistan is, this flank is vulnerable without the completion of Pakistan, without the integration of Jammu and Kashmir in Pakistan. The two-nation theory that was conceptualized by Allama Iqbal and later completed and consummated by Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah is the key, the most crucial, the most pivotal ideological construct of your statehood. Never neglect it, because there is scant attention given to the ideological basis of Pakistan in those days, in these days. Between India and Pakistan, it's not a political war. It is not about territory. It is not even about the population of Kashmir. It is a civilizational war. And this stems from the concept of Hindutva. And I can assure you that there are three types of cohorts that adhere to Hindutva. One were direct believers. They are Bhajpa or the Bharatiya Janata Party and Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. Second are Congress. Congress has also brutalized the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Yes. Don't be taken in by the sweet words of Mahatma Gandhi or the persuasive talks of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru or the successive governments. They have been killing people, killing Muslims, killing, of course, who started these pellet guns? Pellet guns were started by Congress. Babri Masjid, all these things. So, and somebody cynically said that even Hindu communists also believe in Hindutva, right? But they're passive Hindutva believers. So, to younger generation, I would recommend to you, because this is a research institute and this is a very prestigious research institute, do read the books written by Joseph Corbell, Danger in Kashmir. There's Sardar Muhammad Ibrahim Khan's book, Kashmir Saga. You have A.K. Sohrawardi's Tragedy in Kashmir. And if you have the time, there's a book called Kashmir Udas Hai, which talks about the Jammu genocide. And there are many other publications. I can recommend them to you.
Jammu genocide is ignored recently.
Yes, yes. 250,000 Muslims.
Weeks? Months?
It was October and November, 1947. Yes, this was the first genocide and first Holocaust after the Second World War. Unrecorded in the World Chronicles and unaccounted. As a matter of fact, the Indian genocidaires, it was again the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, it was Jan Sangh, it was Indian National Army and Dogra Army who executed this. Now, I don't know whether I have exceeded my time limit, but let me race through some of the points. I'm on the last page, so that should be good news. So first, to young generation, addressing you once again, because you are probably 20, 21, 23. By year 2047, you would be either in your early 30s or you will be in your early 40s. At that time, you won't be able to blame older generation that we are in this mess because they didn't do this or they didn't do that. You can do it today fashionably and get away with it. But let me tell you that then you will be in positions of responsibility. And start now, start early. One thing that you must do is don't lose heart. Don't lose faith in your nationhood. And don't get distracted. You should craft your own narrative. You should not be influenced by narratives which are written and floated to undermine your state and your identity. Become a leader. Individual leaders, whether you're entrepreneurs or whether you're serving in government departments or whether you are in politics or whether you're in the profession of law or in journalism, become leaders. And when we will aggregate these leaders, young leaders, Pakistan would become a leader globally. And similarly, create wealth and get skills. Because if you are wealthy, if the majority of people of Pakistan are wealthy, Pakistan would have bigger GDP. Now, international system is fraying right now. It has to be reconstructed. There's a vacuum there. And I think that your value system, the value system of Pakistan or Bangladesh or the Gulf nations, or let's say the Islamic Ummah, or the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, in collaboration with the rest of the humanity, you need to be a stakeholder in the reconstruction of that new international order. Because the old international order, post-World War order, has been just duplicitous, it had double standards, and it hasn't served the interests of people like people of Jammu and Kashmir or Palestine or other people of the global south in general. It was meant to give legitimacy to the post-colonial imperial period. There have been no ambiguity about that. So, as Senator Mushahid Hussain said, that we are at a very high diplomatic threshold right now. No nation on earth has earned that kind of prestige in diplomatic history. One country, the role that the United Nations should have played, or the traditional peacemakers or mediators would have played, that was deftly and skillfully and arduously fulfilled by the nation of Pakistan and the leadership of Pakistan. You should be proud of them. So you have a higher perch. You have a higher perch and higher threshold to start off. Rethink Pakistan and rethink Kashmir. This is my message to the youth of Pakistan. Thank you so much. And I think that, as I said earlier, I would have to beg leave because I have to go to another event at IRS. Muhammad Qasim Fakhto's book, Bang, is being launched. Yeah, and it's a wonderful book. This past last night, I read it from cover to cover, and it's eye-opening. I'll recommend it to everybody. Whoever is interested, Bang. Right. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a pleasure. And General Majid Ehsan, thank you so much for hosting this event. I'll miss the opportunity of listening to Ambassador Inamul Haq and Farzana Yaqub. ادھر سے ہی چلا جاؤں یا ہاں میرا خیال ہے یہ مناسب جی جی
Thank you. Well done. Thank you. Now, sir,
Our final speaker for today is Farzana Yaqub. Farzana Yaqub has served as Minister for Social Welfare and Women Development, Azad Government of State of Jammu and Kashmir. She holds a master's degree in mass communication and is an alumnus of the National Defense University and Naval War College. Farzana Yaqub is also an Eisenhower Fellow and Young Global Leader of the World Economic Forum.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. اتنی سیر حاصل گفتگو ہو گئی ہے کہ میں نے سوچا میں اردو میں ہی بات کروں تو ہی کوئی بچت ہوگی، ورنہ انگریزی میں اب میں کچھ نہیں کہہ سکتی. اچھا، اس سے پہلے کہ میں مقبوضہ کشمیر پر بات کروں، چونکہ مشاہد صاحب آپ نے بڑی انٹرسٹنگ بات کی تھی، ٹاک اینڈ فائٹ. تو مسئلہ جو ہے نا پچھلے 2-3 سالوں سے آزاد جموں کشمیر میں ہو رہا ہے کہ ٹاک اینڈ فائٹ اینڈ ٹاک ہو رہا ہے، سیپریٹ نہیں ہو پا رہا. اور دونوں سائڈیں جو ہے انہیں لگتا ہے کہ وہ جو بات کہہ رہی ہیں وہ صحیح ہے، اور جب دونوں سائڈیں اس گمان میں ہوں اور یہ مکمل انہیں یقین ہو جائے کہ وہ صحیح ہیں تو پھر بڑا مشکل ہوتا ہے کہ اس میں نیگوسیشن ہو یا کوئی نرمی دکھا سکے. تو ابھی تک تو یہی حال ہے. اور ساتھ میں اس قضیے کا جو سب سے انٹرسٹنگ فینومینا ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ آج سے 2-3 سال پہلے تک آپ آزاد جموں کشمیر میں پروویژنل پروونشل سٹیٹس کی بات نہیں کر سکتے تھے. جیسے جی بی میں ہوا ہے، آپ یہاں پر بات نہیں کر سکتے تھے. آج سے 2-3 سال پہلے تک آپ 12 مہاجرین کی سیٹوں پر بات نہیں کر سکتے تھے، سوال نہیں کر سکتے تھے. آج ہم یہاں پر ہیں کہ بات اور سوال سے بہت آگے. اب تو ہم کہہ رہے ہیں کہ یہ بالکل 12 سیٹیں بھی ختم کر لی جائیں، اور چونکہ یہ بات ہو رہی ہے تو اس لیے اب یہ بھی بات کرنا آسان ہو رہا ہے کہ چلے پھر پروویژنل پروونس بنا ہی لینا چاہیے آزاد جموں کشمیر کو. بہرحال ہر وقت کے کچھ نئی باتیں ہوتی ہیں. اس میں یہاں پر آزاد جموں کشمیر میں ایک آزادی کی لہر دوڑ رہی ہے، اور ساتھ میں نے سوچا کہ میں آپ کو بتاؤں کہ عمر عبداللہ نے ریسنٹلی کیا کہا. بلکہ میں آپ کو یاد دلاؤں کہ پچھلے سال ان کے ساتھ کیا ہوا کہ ایک کشمیر کا ایک دن ہوتا ہے یوم شہدائے کشمیر. یہ وہ دن ہے کہ جب لوگوں کو نماز پڑھتے ہوئے شہید کیا گیا تھا. عمر عبداللہ صاحب چاہ رہے تھے کہ شہداء کے لیے فاتحہ پڑھنے جائیں وہاں قبرستان میں. تو محبوبہ مفتی چونکہ خاتون ہے اس لیے عقل مند ہے زیادہ، وہ 1-2 دن پہلے جا کر فاتحہ پڑھ کے آ گئے. عمر عبداللہ صاحب کا فیصلہ تھا کہ وہ اسی دن جائیں گے، تو ان کو ان کی ہی پولیس نے، ان کی ہی سیکیورٹی نے کہا کہ حضور آپ نہیں جا سکتے. تو عمر عبداللہ صاحب دیوار پر سے پھلانگ کر گئے فاتحہ پڑھنے. اب اس سال کیا ہوتا ہے کہ وہ مودی سے بھی بات کرنا چاہ رہے ہیں. دیکھیے یہ دہلی نواز پولیٹیکل پارٹیز ہیں، دہلی نواز فیملیز ہیں، مفتیز اینڈ عبداللہز. دہلی ان کو لفٹ نہیں کرا رہا تو وہ کیا کہتے ہیں کہ اب ہم ٹرمپ سے بات کریں گے. تو یہ تو مقبوضہ کشمیر کے حالات ہیں کہ ان سے کوئی بات ہی نہیں کر رہا. پھر آپ آزاد جموں کشمیر کی طرف دیکھیں کہ سب آپ سے بات کر رہے ہیں. کوئی انسٹیٹیوشن نہیں رہ گیا پیچھے کہ جس نے بات نہ کی ہو. آپ کے فارمر پرائم منسٹرز جا کر بات کر رہے ہیں. آپ کے کرنٹ پارلیمنٹیرینز جو نیشنل اسمبلی کے ممبرز ہیں وہ جا کے بات کر رہے ہیں. یہ لوگ جا کر ڈیمانڈز پر دستخط کر رہے ہیں. اگر ہم نے پروٹیسٹس کو ہی ڈسکس کرنا ہے تو پھر ان کا کمپیریزن کر لیتے ہیں نا کہ دیکھیں ٹھیک ہے بہت برے حالات ہیں آزاد جموں کشمیر میں، دیر از نو ڈینائنگ دیٹ فیکٹ. لیکن آپ اس کا تقابلی جائزہ ضرور کیجئے. جب انڈین آکوپائڈ کشمیر میں پروٹیسٹ ہوتی ہے تو کیا حالات ہوتے ہیں. کون آ کے ان سے بات کرتا ہے؟ کوئی بھی نہیں ان سے آ کے بات کرتا. ان سے نہ صرف بات نہیں ہوتی بلکہ ان کو کافی زیادہ جو ہے اریسٹ کر کے تو ایسی جگہوں میں ایسے جیلوں میں پھینک دیا جاتا ہے کہ جو کہ انڈین آکوپائڈ کشمیر کی ٹیریٹری سے باہر ہے. کیا آپ کو پتا ہے کہ کشمیر کے جو پولیٹیکل لیڈرشپ ہے وہ کس جیل میں ہے؟ وہ جیل کشمیر میں نہیں ہے، وہ دہلی میں ہے. تہار جیل از این انفیمس جیل فار کشمیریز. وہ اس لیے کہ ایک تو یہ ہے کہ وہاں پر کشمیریوں کو رکھا جاتا ہے، وہاں پر جو کشمیری جاتا ہے وہ زندہ واپس نہیں آتا ہے. لیکن انفیمس اس لیے ہے کہ اس کی لاش بھی نہیں دی جاتی فیملی کو. تو یہ ہے تھوڑا سا تقابلی جائزہ، کیونکہ ہمیں آج کل بہت لگ رہا ہے کہ مختلف القابات دینے سے، اس پر میں یہ ضرور کہوں گی کہ ہندوستان میں نوجوانوں کی موومنٹ کو ہندوستان نے اگر کاکروچ کہا اور پھر ان لوگوں نے فیصلہ کیا کہ ٹھیک ہے کاکروچ پارٹی ہیں، تو اس کا مطلب یہ نہیں ہے کہ ہم بھی اپنے بچوں کو کاکروچ کہیں گے. میں یہ سن رہی ہوں کہ ہمارے کچھ پارلیمنٹیرینز اس لفظ کو بہت استعمال کریں، اور انتہائی افسوس کی بات ہے. افسوس کی بات یہ ہے کہ پاکستان ہمیشہ ہندوستان کا نیریٹو لے کے چلتا رہا. ہندوستان نے کہا کہ بھئی سملہ ایگریمنٹ نے کمپرومائز کر دیا کشمیر کو، پاکستان نے کہا جی بالکل کمپرومائز کر دیا. ہم کشمیری کہتے رہے کہ نہیں ایسی بات نہیں ہے. آج بھی ہم یہی دیکھ رہے ہیں کہ چونکہ بہت ہی اچھا لگا ان کا وہ لفظ، تو آپ اپنی تقاریر میں اپنے بچوں کو کاکروچ پلیز مت کہیے. وہ ملک ہے کہ جس میں ان کے اپنے مذہب کی ایسی لیئرز ہیں کہ جس میں انٹچبلز بھی ہیں اور انسیبلز بھی ہیں. ہم میں اور آپ میں نہ انٹچبلز ایگزسٹ کرتے ہیں نہ انسیبلز. وی آر آل سین اینڈ ہرڈ. سو پلیز ایٹ لیسٹ یہ تو ہم کر سکتے ہیں کہ ہندوستانی الفاظ اور نیریٹیوز کو استعمال نہ کیا جائے. ساتھ میں یہ ہے کہ ہندوستان ہو سکتا ہے کہ بیک فٹ پر ہو بنیاد المرصوص کے بعد، لیکن کافی زیادہ جو اس کا فورٹے ہے وہ ہے میڈیا، وہ ہے نیریٹو، فلمیں، بیانیاں بنانا. تو وہ انڈس سویلائزیشن کو اپنا حق، اپنی پہچان بتا رہا ہے، اور حکومتی لیول پر ہمیں نہیں اس کا جواب نظر آ رہا. لیکن جو نوجوان ہیں جو سوشل میڈیا استعمال کرتے ہیں وہ ایکچولی دے آر فائٹنگ بیک کہ انڈس ویلی سویلائزیشن از ویئر دا انڈس فلوز وچ از پاکستان. ٹیکسلا، موہنجو-داڑو، پاکستان جو ہے وہ ہے مالک ہے نہ صرف مالک ہے بلکہ اس کی وراثت ہے انڈس ویلی سویلائزیشن، جو کہ سب کانٹیننٹ کی amongst one of the first civilizations ہیں، کیونکہ وہ پھر اپنے ہندو مذہب اور وہ سارے کو اس کے ساتھ جسٹیفائی کرتے ہیں. And that is where not the government, not the media, but the social media and social media influencers are playing an important role. ساتھ میں یہ ہے کہ انڈس واٹر ٹریٹی جو ہے اسٹل ان ابینس، انٹرنیشنل کورٹ آف آربیٹریشن نے کہہ دیا ہے کہ ہندوستان جو کر رہا ہے وہ غلط کر رہا ہے. لیکن کیا اس سے کوئی فائدہ ہوتا ہے کہ ہندوستان جو کر رہا ہے وہ غلط کر رہا ہے؟ تو اگر وہ ایکسیپٹ ہو جاتا ہے کسی انٹرنیشنل انسٹیٹیوشن میں تو اس سے کوئی فرق پڑتا ہے؟ نیتن کے بھی اریسٹ وارنٹس نکلے ہوئے ہیں، جو ایڈوکیٹ یہ کیس لے کر چلا تھا اس کو ICC سے ہی نکال دیا گیا ہے. یہ طاقت ہے، یہ طاقت ہے جو کہ استعمال ہوتی ہے بلیٹنٹلی. تو ہم نے کیا کرنا ہے پھر؟ کلیئرلی اتنے سارے سالوں میں 70+ ایئرز میں یہ تو سمجھ آ گئی ہے کہ اچھا بہت لگتا ہے یونائٹڈ نیشنز کا نام لینا، OIC کا نام لینا، انٹرنیشنل کورٹس کے نام لینا بہت اچھا لگتا ہے، لیکن دیکھیں ممالک وہی کامیاب ہیں کہ جو اکنامکلی بھی کامیاب ہیں، لیکن جب وہ اپنی اکنامک سکسیس کے سفر پر گامزن ہیں تو وہ یہ نہیں بھول جاتے کہ انہوں نے اپنے ڈیفنس پر بھی محنت کرنی ہے، انہیں اپنے بارڈرز کو بھی محفوظ کرنا ہے. مشاہد صاحب نے بہت اچھے سے سمجھایا کہ یہ جو 2018 اور 1920 کے اوائل میں جو چینج آیا تھا، ایک تو یہ ہے کہ جی ہر تھنک ٹینک میں ہم ضرور کہتے ہیں کہ جی جو کشمیر پالیسی ہے یہ کچھ ایسا معمہ سا بنا ہوا ہے کہ کبھی ہمیں یہ نہیں پتہ چلتا کہ بھئی لکھی ہوئی کیا ہے. جس کا جو دل آتا ہے وہ کانسٹیٹیوشن میں چونکہ لکھا ہوا ہے تو اس کے حساب سے من چاہی اس کی ٹرانسلیشن اور وہ کر دیتے ہیں. لیکن بنا لیجئے، اس میں کیا خوفناک بات ہے؟ بڑی دفعہ ہم نے یہ ایکسرسائز کی ہے، اور ایسے پیپرز کو پبلک کرنے میں ٹینشن نہیں لینی چاہیے. اگر ہندوستان جو بھی وہ کرتا ہے پبلکلی کرتا ہے، کھل کے کرتا ہے، تو ہمیں بھی کچھ پبلکلی اور کھل کے کر لینا چاہیے. آپ نے ذکر کیا کہ جی مودی پر کیس ہو رہا تھا. مودی کو امریکہ آنے کی اجازت ہی نہیں تھی، کیونکہ گجرات میں جو وہ بچر آف گجرات نے کارنامے کیے تھے تو اس کے بعد اس کو امریکہ آنے کا ویزا ہی نہیں مل سکتا تھا. وہ پہلی دفعہ امریکہ جب اس پر بین لگا تھا تب آیا ہے جب وہ انڈیا کا پرائم منسٹر بن چکا تھا. سو یہ انٹرنیشنل جورسڈکشنز ہیں. امریکہ ہو گیا، UK ہو گیا، بیلجیم، یہ انٹرنیشنل جورسڈکشنز ہیں جہاں پر کہ ہم بھی کیس کر سکتے ہیں. امریکہ میں تو ہاتھ ہولا رکھنے کے لیے کہا گیا، لیکن UK میں چونکہ کسی کی فیسیلیٹیشن استعمال نہیں ہوئی تھی تو 1-2 کیسز جو ہیں وہ ہندوستان کے فوج اور لوگوں کے خلاف جو ہیں سبمٹ کیے گئے ہیں اور وہاں پر کورٹس میں ایکسیپٹ. قطع نظر اس سے کہ ان کا کیا فیصلہ ہوتا ہے اور کیا جیت ہوتی ہے اور کیا ہار ہوتی ہے، لیکن ہمیں اپنا جو ریگولر روٹین کا طریقہ ہے معاملات حل کرنے کا، اس سے تھوڑا سا آگے جانا پڑے گا. 2019 اور اس کے بعد سے کشمیریوں نے بہت کوشش کی کہ سمجھایا جا سکے، لکھ کر دیا، بات کر کے دیا. اور اس وقت ایک بڑی انٹرسٹنگ ایکسرسائز تھی کہ آلدو ایک ویک سا فرنٹ اور سٹانس تھا، لیکن کشمیریوں سے ملنے جلنے کا، کشمیری ایکیڈیمکس تو سارے جو انسٹیٹیوشنز ہیں وہ بہت زیادہ ان کی جو ہے کمیونیکیشن میں اضافہ ہو گیا تھا، جس سے ہمیں یہ تھوڑی سی خوش فہمی ہوئی کہ شاید اب صحیح بات ہوگی اور صحیح طریقے سے ہو پائے گی، لیکن وہ کچھ نظر نہیں آیا. 2019 میں آپ کو بتاؤں کہ ہندوستان نے تو ہمارے جگر میں چاقو کھونپا تھا، لیکن مایوس ہمیں پاکستان نے کیا. اور یہ جو آج آزاد جموں کشمیر میں آپ ہوتا دیکھ رہے ہیں نا، یہ اس کے بھی آفٹر ایفیکٹس ہیں کہ جب آپ نے اون ہی نہیں کرنا لوگوں کو تو وہ پھر سوال تو اٹھائیں گے. यहाँ पर सिर्फ देखिए, जहाँ तक बात है एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव इश्यूज की और गवर्नेंस इश्यूज की, बिल्कुल इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है कि वो मसाइल हल होने चाहिए। वो जो 38 पॉइंट्स हैं उसमें जो जिन पॉइंट्स पर एक्चुअली तवज्जो करने की ज़रूरत थी, जिन पर के शायद ज़्यादा बात करने की ज़रूरत थी, वो ये था कि एक अदर पॉइंट था कि आज़ाद जम्मू कश्मीर से फॉरेन फोर्सेस को निकाला जाए। यहाँ से पार्लियामेंटेरियंस उस पर दस्तखत करके आए हुए हैं, आप मान कर आए हुए हैं। तो जब हम कहते हैं कि बात कर लिया करें, समझ लिया करें, फिर जाके फैसले किया करें, तो उसकी कोई वजूहात होती। ये सिर्फ ये बात नहीं है कि ठीक है जी, यहाँ पर ये MRI की मशीन लगा लें और वो लगा लें, ये सड़क बना लें, वो ब्रिज बना लें, वो तो बिल्कुल ठीक है। वो तो राइट टू इंफॉर्मेशन के तहत सारी, अगर जो मिनिस्ट्रीज हैं वो एक एक पॉइंट अपना रेलेवेंट जो मिनिस्ट्री का है उसका जवाब देती थी, तो भी बहुत ही अफाका होता, लेकिन हमने वो सब कुछ नहीं किया। देखिए, लोग सवाल पूछ रहे हैं ना, हमने जवाब नहीं दिए। बातें करने का मतलब ये नहीं होता कि कोई जवाब मिल रहा है, आप वक्त इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं। तो बातें बहुत होती रही हैं, जवाब नहीं दिए गए। अच्छा, और अगर कोई काम नहीं हुआ, जैसे वो कहते हैं कि जी AJK का बैंक शेड्यूल होना चाहिए। AJK बैंक शेड्यूलिंग SBP का काम है, हुकूमत आज़ाद जम्मू कश्मीर का एक हद से ज़्यादा उसमें कोई काम नहीं है। इट्स अ सेमी इंडिपेंडेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन। अगर आज़ाद जम्मू कश्मीर के नोटिफिकेशन से होना होता तो ये काम मेरे वालिद साहब ने शुरू करवाया था। अगर मैं जब मिनिस्टर बनी थी तो मैं करवा देती, इसे हो नहीं सकता। सो बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें हैं कि जो कि एक्चुअली पाकिस्तान के डोमेन में आती हैं, वो सारी उन 38 पॉइंट्स में हैं। उनको ना सेपरेट किया, कुछ लॉन्ग टर्म है, कुछ शॉर्ट टर्म है। वादे वईद हो गए कि शॉर्ट टर्म में सब कुछ सेट होगा, तो इसलिए लोग नाराज तो होंगे और परेशान तो होंगे। और जवाब उनको किसने देना है जो उन कॉन्वर्सेशंस में थे ही नहीं, उनके साथ निगोशिएशंस में जो थे ही नहीं, यानी कि मैं और आप। जवाब हमने देना है क्योंकि हम वहां पर रहते हैं। ये मैं इसलिए बता रही हूँ कि आज 2019 के बारे में, 5 अगस्त के बारे में बात हो रही है, लेकिन अब हालात ये हैं कि मकबूजा कश्मीर से ज़्यादा हमें आज़ाद कश्मीर की परेशानी होगी। तो यकीनन उसके बारे में सही मौक़िफ़, सही बयानियाँ सामने आना चाहिए कि हम इसमें भी क्या क्या गलतियां कर रहे हैं। बिल्कुल जैसे 2019 के बाद हमने बहुत सारे मौके गंवाए हैं, 2022 के बाद से हमने बहुत सारे मौके गंवाए हैं। इस सारे वक्त में जो मज़े की बात है वो ये है कि 4 अदद वज़ीर आज़म तब्दील किए गए। 2 दफ़ा जो PTI की हुकूमत थी उसने खुद ही अपने वज़ीर आज़म बदले। तो जब गाड़ी स्लोप में होती है ना, तो आप बंद भी कर देना तो वो नीचे ही जाती है। तो तीसरा जो वज़ीर आज़म था, जिनके वक्त ये सारा कारनामा जो है वो हाई स्टेज पर पहुंचा, वो तकरीबन सारी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज 48 वोट्स उनको पड़े थे 53 में से। तो जैसे मसूद खान साहब ने कहा कि कोई वो उस तरह से नहीं था ऑपोजिशन, बट नहीं, वोट पड़े थे, लेकिन नून लीग ऑपोजिशन में बैठी। ठीक है, सो ये ऐसी चीजें हैं कि जिनके बारे में एक हल्के से आप अगर आप बात कर लें तो देखिए हर चीज की बहुत गहराई होती है और उसको समझने में फिर थोड़ा वक्त लगता है। और उसके बाद फिर ये हुआ कि जब बहुत ज्यादा हालात खराब हुए, 38 पॉइंट्स पर दस्तखत कर दिए गए, तो अराउंड दिसंबर चौथा वजीर आजम आ गया। हालात इसलिए भी मखदूश हुए हैं क्योंकि जो पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम है वो बहुत ज़्यादा डिरेल हुआ है इन 5-6 सालों में। 2021 से लेकर 2026 ये अभी इलेक्शंस चल रहे हैं, इसमें भी ये पहली दफ़ा हो रहा है कि किस्तों में, इंस्टॉलमेंट्स में इलेक्शंस हो रहे हैं। 3 डिवीज़न हैं आज़ाद जम्मू कश्मीर के, मीरपुर, मुजफ्फराबाद एंड पुंछ में लास्ट होगा। और पुंछ में भी हो जाएगा, सिर्फ 2-3 हल्के हैं जहाँ पर के प्रोटेस्टर्स को कंटेन किया गया है। हमें लगता है कि हमारी साइड ने कंटेन किया है, उधर से पता चलता है कि उनको उन्हीं के लोगों ने कंटेन किया हुआ है। लाइक प्रोटेस्टर्स को जो लोग आए हैं वो अब जाने भी नहीं दे रहे, वो कह रहे हैं अब जब तुम लोग आ गए हो तो इधर रुको। Rawalakot is a very interesting place, and Southern tribe is even more interesting when it comes to, fighting amongst ourselves and with others. So there's a lot of history. मैं recently देख रही थी कि हिंदुस्तान ने भी पॉडकास्ट, मतलब वहाँ पर भी Southern tribe पर बहुत पॉडकास्ट्स हो रही हैं। सो गुड और बैड, इट इज़ व्हाट इट इज़। मैं भी एक सोदर ही हूँ। इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन बाकी सारा हो गया। 2019 के बाद से क्या नया काम हुआ है? हिंदुस्तान को यूनियन टेरिटरी क्यों बनाना पड़ा? वो इसलिए कि उनकी जो चुनिंदा लोग हैं उनसे भी वो मुतमईन नहीं थे। उन्हें नहीं लग रहा था कि जो उनकी ख्वाहिशात हैं वो इंडियन ऑक्यूपाइड कश्मीर की असेंबली से हो पाएंगे। 2019 में इंडियन ऑक्यूपाइड कश्मीर में कोई असेंबली नहीं थी, इट हैड बीन डिसॉल्व्ड। वहां पर इलेक्शंस ही नहीं हो रहे थे। एक अदद हदियतन जो है उन्होंने एक लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर रखे हुए थे जो कि मनवन उनको जो कहा जाता था वो कर रहे थे, बस ये था। सो वहां पर कोई पॉलिटिकल, हम वैसे देखिए हिंदुस्तान की कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को हम नहीं मानते, वहां के पॉलिटिकल प्रोसेसेस को नहीं मानते, लेकिन बहरहाल जो भी एक रूडिमेंट्री सिस्टम है वो बिल्कुल नहीं था। इलेक्शंस कब हुए? जब हिंदुस्तान की सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा, फैसला दिया कि इलेक्शन करवाइए, तो जाकर 2024 में इलेक्शंस हुए हैं। अच्छा, फिर ये भी बात आती है कि जी बड़े वोट पड़े हैं। 2019 के बाद से हिंदुस्तान के जुल्म और सितम करने की कार्रवाई में कोई कमी नहीं आई, बल्कि उसमें बहुत ज्यादा इजाफा हुआ है। इलेक्शन में वोट क्यों ज्यादा पड़े? क्योंकि जो भी लोग इलेक्शन कंटेस्ट कर रहे थे, स्पेशली मुफ्ती फैमिली और अब्दुल्ला फैमिली, वो लोगों को क्या कह रहे थे? वो कह रहे थे कि हम ये अमेंडमेंट्स रिवर्ट करवाएंगे। देखिए, ये इलेक्शन इज अ काइंड ऑफ रेफरेंडम जिसमें लोगों ने अपने ख्वाहिश का इजहार किया है कि ये जो हुआ है आर्टिकल 35A एंड 370 इसको रिवर्ट किया जाए, यूनियन टेरिटरी ना बनाया जाए। क्योंकि ये बात उन तक पहुंचाई जा रही थी बाय द पीपल हु वर कंटेस्टिंग इलेक्शंस। वोट इस मौकफ को मिला है वोट इस बात को नहीं मिला है कि चूंकि हम बहुत खुश हो गए यूनियन टेरिटरीज पर, कि हम मुतमईन हैं हिंदुस्तान की हुकूमत पर, तो इससे अब हम जो है बहुत ज्यादा जो है आकर पॉलिटिकल प्रोसेस का हिस्सा बन। वहां पर जिन कॉलेजेस में मेरिट पर मुसलमानों को ज्यादा दाखिला मिल रहा था वो कॉलेजेस अब बंद किए जा रहे हैं। बाकी हिंदुस्तान में क्या हो रहा है कि नाम तब्दील किए जा रहे हैं, जहां पर मुस्लिम नेम्स हैं, चाहे वो कॉलेजेस, यूनिवर्सिटीज, सड़कें, किसी भी चीज का अगर गलती से कोई मुगल कोई कनेक्शन है तो वो उसको बदल रहे हैं। लेकिन ये सारी जो टेक्निक्स हैं उन्होंने कहां पर फाइन ट्यून किए हैं? उन्होंने मकबूजा कश्मीर में फाइन ट्यून किए हैं। उर्दू वहां पर बहुत अच्छे से पढ़ाई भी जाती है, बोली भी जाती है, मकबूजा कश्मीर में लिखी भी जाती है। इसको अब रोका जा रहा है कि अब सिर्फ संस्कृत जो कि बाकी सारे हिंदुस्तान में इस्तेमाल होती जाती, बोली और लिखी जाती है, वही अब मकबूजा कश्मीर में इस्तेमाल की जाएगी। उनका जो वंदे मातरम है अब वो उसको इन्फोर्स कर रहे हैं। पहले इन्फोर्स नहीं किया जाता था, फोर्स नहीं किया जाता था ये पढ़ने पर, अब फोर्स किया जा रहा है। मकबूजा कश्मीर में मुसलमान जो हैं वो अपने इंस्टीट्यूशंस में, पर्टिकुलरली अपनी एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस में ये लाजमन पढ़े। तो देखिए जो 370 और 35A जो है मुख्तलिफ लेयर्स में जो जिस तरह से उन्होंने कश्मीरियों को ख़त्म करने की कोशिश की, उसमें जो उनकी आइडेंटिटी है ना, आइडेंटिटी इरेजर पर उनका जो काम है वो मल्टीप्लाई हो गया है 2019 के बाद। लोग बहुत ज़्यादा वहाँ से निकलकर तुर्की में मूव कर चुके हैं, मलेशिया, मुख्तलिफ मुल्कों में जाने पर मजबूर हो गए, क्योंकि अब मुसलमानों का वहाँ पर जिंदा रहना, अपनी इकोनॉमिक अपॉर्चुनिटीज़, अपने हकूक इस्तेमाल करना अब वो नामुमकिन के करीब होता जा रहा है, बहुत ज़्यादा मुश्किल होता जा रहा है। उनकी ज़मीनें ली जा रही। वहाँ पर ये जो UAE की तरफ से बहुत ज़्यादा, और उनके जो टॉप इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट्स हैं जिनके नाम आते हैं कि जी बिलियंस ऑफ डॉलर्स वो इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, तो वो मकबूजा कश्मीर में रहने वाले कश्मीरी के लिए नहीं है। वो जो सेटलर कॉलोनियलिज्म के लिए जो लोग वो लेकर आ रहे हैं उसके लिए उन्होंने सब कुछ बनाना है। ये इन्वेस्टमेंट उसके लिए है। ये जो रेलवे जिसका आजकल ताना मारा जाता है आज़ाद जम्मू कश्मीर को कि यहाँ पर तो रेल भी नहीं, और इंडियन ऑक्यूपाइड में कश्मीर में देखें तो रेलवे भी जहाँ लोगों के लिए इस्तेमाल होती है वो एक्चुअली आपकी डिफेंस मोबिलाइजेशन के लिए इस्तेमाल होती है। 2024 में जब इलेक्शन हुए थे तो सबको पता है कि मकबूजा कश्मीर इज द मोस्ट मिलिटराइज्ड जोन ऑफ द वर्ल्ड। आज भी फलस्तीन नहीं है, गजा नहीं है, मकबूजा कश्मीर है। تب بھی انہیں ایڈیشنل فورسز منگوانی پڑی. تو کچھ تو کر رہے ہیں نا, کشمیری کے مستقل فورسز میں اضافہ کرنا پڑ رہا ہے. اگر ہندوستان مطمئن ہوتا یا اگر مقبوضہ کشمیر کے رہنے والے کشمیری جو ہیں وہ ہندوستان کے ساتھ راضی ہوتے تو فوج میں یقیناً کمی آتی, فوج کو وہاں سے نکالا جاتا اور جہاں کہیں باقی علاقوں میں وہ رکھنا چاہتے ہیں وہ کرتے. لیکن آج تک یہ نہیں ہم نے سنا, نہ ہم نے یہ دیکھا ہے کہ فوج مقبوضہ کشمیر سے نکلی ہے, وہ صرف جاتی ہے, وہاں سے واپس نہیں آتی ہے, وہیں پر بس جاتی. بنیان المرصوص 2025 جو بہت زیادہ ایک افسوس اور دکھ تھا 2019 کا کہ پاکستان نے, کیونکہ دیکھیں یہ بھی تو محبت تھی نا اور ہے, کہ ایسے کیسے ہوا کہ آپ کا ایک علاقہ جو ہے اس کی کانسٹیٹیوشنل حیت بدل دی گئی اور آپ نے کچھ کیا ہی نہیں, یعنی کہ ہم آپ کا حصہ نہیں ہیں. اگر ایسا لاہور یا کسی اور علاقے کے ساتھ کیا جاتا تو آپ کیا کرتے, اور آپ نے کچھ بھی نہیں کیا. لیکن جب 2025 میں فائنلی پاکستان نے ایک بہترین جواب دیا ہے, کائنیٹک جواب دیا ہے, اور ساتھ میں ساری دنیا میں جو ڈپلومیٹک ان کا آن سلاٹ تھا اور پاکستان ان سارے لیئرز میں کامیاب ہوا ہے, تو بہت زیادہ جو ہے ہمت بڑھی کشمیریوں میں کہ نہیں, جو 2019 کی جو غلطی ہوئی تھی اس کو فائنلی کسی حد تک بہتر طریقے سے اس کو ایڈریس کیا گیا ہے. سو اس لیے اس میں کافی زیادہ جو ہے کشمیریوں کو ہمت حاصل ہوئی ہے کہ جی پاکستان جب فیصلہ کرتا ہے جواب دینے کا تو وہ جواب دیتا ہے. اسی لیے 2019 اتنا اہم ہے کہ پاکستان نے فیصلہ کیا تھا جواب نہیں دینا. تو یہ جو مشاہد صاحب نے بہت اہم باتیں بتائیں کہ یہ جو ہم کشمیر پالیسی پر کرتے ہیں نا کہ شعر اب مجھے وہ یاد نہیں آ رہا, لیکن بہرحال وہ کچھ ایسا نا کہ ڈوب کر کہیں اور نکلتے ہیں اور کہیں اور سے نکل کے تو کہیں اور ڈوبتے ہیں, کچھ اس طرح سے وہ شعر ہے. تو یہ کشمیر کی پالیسی کے ساتھ ایسے ہی ہوتا ہے کہ کہیں سے جاتے ہیں اور کہیں سے نکلتے ہیں. اس کو جو ہے آئی تھنک وہ دوسرا پلٹ کر جھپٹنا, جھپٹ کر پلٹنا, لہو گرم رکھنے کا ہے ایک بہانہ. تو بہانے بہت ہیں لیکن یہ پلٹ اور جھپٹ میں جو ہے نا وہ کشمیری بیچ میں مس ہو جاتے ہیں. تو بہرحال بات یہ ہے کہ جی کنسسٹنسی اینڈ پرسسٹنس از آل دیٹ از ریکوائرڈ. پاکستان اب اس کی بات بھی سنی جا رہی ہے, پاکستان ایک کامیاب ملک ہے, یقیناً انٹرنل ایشوز میں اضافہ ہو چکا ہے, اس میں کوئی دو رائے نہیں. بلوچستان کے پی کے آزاد جموں کشمیر جو ہیں وہ اب ہاٹ بیڈز ہیں, یہاں پر بہت زیادہ سوزش ہے, بہت زیادہ. آزاد جموں کشمیر میں مجھے نہیں یاد پڑتا کہ 50s کے بعد اس قدر سوزش ہوئی ہو, لیکن بہرحال ہے جی بالکل یہ ہے, اور اس کو بہت اچھے طریقے سے آگے لے کے چلنا ہوگا. آج بھی بات ہو رہی ہے, ایسا نہیں ہے کہ پروٹیسٹر سے بات نہیں ہو رہی, لیکن بہرحال یہ اونٹ کس کل بیٹھے گا یہ تو مجھے بھی سمجھ نہیں آ رہی کہ ہمارے ساتھ کیا ہونے والا ہے. 2019 5 اگست کا جو سبق ہے جو کہ ہمیں ہر سال یاد رکھنا چاہیے وہ یہ ہے کہ پلیز سرپرائز نہ ہوا کریں. بی جے پی کے الیکشن مینیفیسٹو پڑھ لیا کریں. ہندوستان جو کرتا ہے کھل کے ٹکا کے کرتا ہے, سرپرائز نہ ہوا. آج بھی وہ کرے, جو کچھ بھی کرے گا وہ بالکل پلان کے حساب سے چل رہا ہے. اس کی جو اسمبلی کی جو نئی بلڈنگ ہے اس میں جو انہوں نے ہندوستان کا جو میپ لگایا ہوا ہے وہ پلیز اپنے تھنک ٹینکس میں لگائیے, دیکھیے تو صحیح کہ اکھنڈ بھارت کا میپ وہ لگائیے. یاد رکھیے کہ ہندوستان آپ سے ہو سکتا ہے کہ بادشاہت کرے, بٹ دیٹ از always India buying time. There is no way they are interested in. چاہے وہ کانگریس ہے چاہے بی جے پی ہے, یہ پاکستان میں ہوتا ہے جی امن کی آشا, یہ پاکستان میں ہوتا ہے کہ ہم ان کی فلموں میں گانے گائیں گے, ہم ان کے ڈرامے دیکھیں گے, ہم ان کے فلمیں دیکھیں گے. ہندوستان میں ایسے نہیں ہوتا ہے, نہیں لگاتے وہ آپ کی فلم. آپ کے جو ڈراماز ہیں وہ وی پی اینس کے تھرو دیکھا جاتا ہے, انہیں کوئی شوق نہیں ہے آپ کا. اور یہ کشمیری ہم آپ کو بتاتے رہے ہیں کہ خدا کے واسطے یہ خوش فہمی نکال لیں. جو بار بار کہا جاتا ہے کہ جی ٹریڈ ہونی چاہیے, کوشش کی گئی تھی تو بتائیں نا نمبرز, کتنا ٹریڈ کیا, کتنا مال پاکستان سے ہندوستان گیا, وہاں سے آیا, یہاں سے کچھ نہیں گیا, کوئی تھوڑا بہت گیا ہوگا. No, but we fought back and got it back. Basmati is ours. Like, you see, because now private sector is coming up. ठीक है, बासमती का जो ट्रेडमार्क है वो वापस ले लिया गया और एंड वंस अगेन द आइडेंटिटी वर्क जो हमारा कल्चर है. क्योंकि मुझसे कल ये सवालात पूछे गए तो मैंने सोचा आज मैं आपके सामने भी जिक्र कर लूं कि आज़ाद जम्मू कश्मीर और मकबूजा कश्मीर के कल्चर में क्या फ़र्क है. ये पहली दफ़ा मुझसे ये सवाल किया गया क्योंकि ये बात कुछ यहाँ के रहनुमाओं ने कह दिया कि ये तो कश्मीरी नहीं है, तो पुंछियों और कश्मीरियों का जो इंटरनल रेसिज्म था वो अब जो है पर्दा फाड़ कर जो है ना निकला हीरो वाला सीन हुआ है. देखिए, मकबूजा कश्मीर में भी गोजरी बोलने वाले, पहाड़ी बोलने वाले, कश्मीरी बोलने वाले लोग रहते हैं. आज़ाद जम्मू कश्मीर में भी गोजरी बोलने वाले, पहाड़ी बोलने वाले, कश्मीरी बोलने वाले रहते हैं. मुख्तलिफ ट्राइब्स वहाँ पर भी हैं, यहाँ पर भी हैं. इसमें कोई फर्क नहीं है. कोई ऐसा ट्राइब नहीं है कि जो यहाँ ना हो और वहां पर हो और वहां ना हो और यहाँ पर हो. आज़ाद जम्मू, द स्टेट ऑफ जम्मू कश्मीर पाकिस्तान का हिस्सा होगा, वो किसके घर में श्रीनगर में फैसला हुआ था? सरदार इब्राहिम साहब जो कि सुदुज़ई हैं. और वहां पर सारी लीडरशिप थी कश्मीर की, तो कोई खास फर्क नहीं है. हाँ, फर्क कश्मीरियों का नहीं है लेकिन ऑक्यूपाइंग फोर्सेस का जरूर है. इंडियन ऑक्यूपाइड कश्मीर में हिंदुस्तान इज एन ऑक्यूपाइंग फोर्स एंड ऑफ कोर्स वहां का फर्क है. यहाँ पर हम लोग बिजनेस, हमारी रिहाइश, हमारा जीना मरना पाकिस्तान में है, तो ये एक फर्क है. लेकिन कश्मीरियत में कोई फर्क नहीं है, कश्मीरी लोगों में आर पार कोई फर्क नहीं है. तो मैं इपरी के इस स्टेज से आप सबसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी, क्योंकि यहाँ पर रिसर्च होती कि देखिए ऐसे फिरके ना बनाए कि जो पहले नहीं थे. बहुत ज्यादा फिरकाबाजी है. ये डिवाइड एंड रूल खत्म करें, यूनाइट एंड को एग्जिस्ट सस्टेनेबली एंड हैप्पीली. डिवाइड एंड रूल ना करें. और इन लाइंस पर, ट्राइबल लाइंस पर तो बिल्कुल भी ना करें. उस पर कुछ किताबें हैं, prisoners of geography, which tell you what geography does and which also explains why most of the tribes are the way they are. और इतनी जंगें उसमें geography क्यों अहम रोल प्ले करती है. और कश्मीर, द स्टेट ऑफ जम्मू एंड कश्मीर, राजा बाजार यहाँ पिंडी में है, यहाँ तक होता था. यहाँ सिर्फ शॉपिंग होती थी कश्मीरियों की. ये हमारा ताल्लुक है. गुरदासपुर अगर हिंदुस्तान के पास ना होता तो वो पहुंच नहीं सकता था. हमारे जो एंशियंट जो रास्ते हैं ट्रेड के, नेपोलियन के वक्त में भी कश्मीरी शॉज वहां पहुंचती थी. ये पाकिस्तान और सेंट्रल एशिया के थ्रू होता. सो दिस इज द रूट, दिस इज हु वी आर. जी बिल्कुल. सो दिस इज हु वी आर. मामलात आज खराब हैं, उसकी वजह से नए मसाइल ना क्रिएट किए जाएं कि इससे तवज्जो हटे और उस पर जाए. तो चूंकि यहाँ पर अटेंशन कम है तो उनका सिलसिला जो है वो ख़त्म कर लिया जाए. मैं उम्मीद रखती हूँ कि जी इंशाल्लाह अगले साल 5 अगस्त 2027 से पहले शायद बेहतरी आए, मकबूजा कश्मीर के हालात में बेहतरी आए. हो सकता है, और हमेशा अच्छा गुमान करना चाहिए और पुरुमीद रहना चाहिए कि कज़िया कश्मीर में बेहतरी आए, कि कश्मीर के लोगों की बात सुनी जाए और उनके जो मामलात हैं और उनके जो मसाइल हैं वो हल हो सकें. जो ऑक्यूपाइंग फोर्स है वो, उसका जो जुल्म है उसमें कुछ कमी आ सके. जो सेटलर कॉलोनियलिज्म की स्पीड है वो स्पीड कम हो सके. ये कुछ हो सकता है एक साल में. उसके लिए हमें मेहनत करने की बहुत ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान को लगता है कि वो दुआओं पर जिंदा है. दुआएं जो हैं वो उसका ऐकल तो तवक्कुल, तो पहले ऊंट को बांधें फिर उसके बाद तवक्कुल करें. हम ऊंट बांधना नहीं चाह रहे, वो घूम रहा है और हम चाह रहे हैं कि हम कामयाब हो जाएं. ऊंट को बांधना पड़ेगा, उसको बिठाना पड़ेगा, फिर तवक्कुल करते रहिएगा. शुक्रिया.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we would open the floor for questions and answers. I request the audience to please keep their questions brief so we can get the maximum number of questions.
Because he's been involved in Kashmir historic.
I think sir will be summing it up in his concluding remarks. As you wishes, sir, please. I would request worthy Ambassador Enamul Haq for his concluding remarks.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। इसको यार करो संभाल लगे कि सोटी पकड़ लेंगे। सोटी अच्छा होता है संभालने में।
This area.
स्टिक्स हम आजकल जरा ज्यादा यूज कर रहे हैं, तो ना जरा कम कर दें तो अच्छा है।
Multi-purpose thing.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We have heard three excellent expositions by people who have influenced policy on Kashmir for a number of years. And I will not go into the history because I assume that researchers in this institute are aware of the history of Jammu and Kashmir, and if they are not, they should be. But let's briefly say that 5th and 6th of August 2019 were 2 days during which India launched an all-out assault on the not Indian-occupied Kashmir, but on the identity of the Kashmiri people and their status as a nation. We all know that they had made no secret of the fact that they want to integrate Jammu and Kashmir into India. They had said so before in their election manifesto in 2014 and then again in 2019. So it did not come as a surprise to anybody, or should not have come as a surprise. But we were not ready with a response. The consequences of this legislation were indeed dire and disastrous and far-reaching into the future for the people of Jammu and Kashmir. We can use any words that we want, that the people of Jammu and Kashmir are living in oppression, under repression, they are living in a police state or a military state. It is the heaviest military presence in any area in the world that the Kashmiris are suffering from, and that their inalienable rights to self-determination, which were assured to them by the UN Security Council, have never been honored. But those words will not make a wrong a right. By elimination, Article 370, as you have been told, was never a legal article as such. And Pakistan never recognized it as such, neither did the UN Security Council. There are resolutions of the UN Security Council, one of 1951 and one of 1957, which reject the role of the Constituent Assembly established by India to draw up a constitution for Jammu and Kashmir, and the constitution that they drew up. Article 35A was in fact installed, which was to the benefit of the Kashmiri people as a result of the Delhi Agreement between Nehru and Sheikh Abdullah. Nehru explained it in the parliament, and in 1954 it was included in the Indian Constitution through a presidential order. For 60 years, nobody challenged it. But after 2019, the legality of the Article 35A was also challenged in the Supreme Court of India. In the 1956 Constitution adopted by the Constituent Assembly, Article 4 provides the same safeguards for the Kashmiri people in terms of their land, in terms of their properties, in terms of their jobs, in terms of their education, and other areas, so that foreigners cannot come and settle in Kashmir and claim their land, their property, their jobs, and their education system. But that article was also done away with in 2019. But what was the purpose of eliminating this article? That has been explained by Ms. Farzana Yaqub to an extent. It was to eliminate all the safeguards which had been built in, if any were remaining, because Article 370 had been hollowed out by then, to the Kashmiri people, in order to change the demography of Kashmir, to allow outsiders to come and settle in Kashmir, to acquire property, to set up businesses, to get into their educational institutions, and to find jobs in Kashmir. So what has been happening since 2019? The Kashmiris are being expropriated from their properties, their lands are taken away, their political rights were always taken away, but the constituencies have now been gerrymandered in such a way that the non-Muslim population will get more representation in the future assemblies, and the intention is eventually to convert Jammu and Kashmir into a Muslim minority area. The economy of Jammu and Kashmir is now at the mercy of the multi-billionaire friends of Modi, who will take all the land that they desire, who will build all the hotels that they want to, who will take all the profits from Kashmir that they want to, and the Kashmiris will be left without anything in their name. As Madam Farzana Yaqub said, this is identity erosion. And it reminds me of what Senator Mushahid Hussain told you about the growing nexus between Israel and India. India has been recognized Israel in 1950. But then Israel's presence was restricted to one trading station in Bombay. In 1992, formal diplomatic relations were established, and since then, the relationship between the two countries has flourished in all areas. The RSS BJP combined and Israel are two examples in the international community of fascist states posing as democracies, committing genocide and getting away with it because of the indulgence of the international community. Both countries are guilty of violating numerous UN Security Council resolutions, and both countries have been supported in the UN Security Council by their mentors. In case of Israel, by the United States, and in the early years, India was supported by the Soviet Union. The fact of the nexus between the two countries can be established by the fact that, as you know, Narendra Gandhi visited Israel on 26th of February, and attending the Israeli parliament, he assured of Israel of India's total support in the years ahead, without any qualifications, without any caveats, without any limits. And let's look at the parallels in the policies of two countries. India talks of Akhand Bharat. India has been an expansionist state since the very beginning, starting with Junagadh, Hyderabad, Jammu and Kashmir, Goa, Sikkim, to quote a few areas which they have taken by force from other nations and from other people. Similarly, Israel talks of Greater Israel or Ersatz Israel, which includes territories around it extending up to Medina of Saudi Arabia, because they claim that they were expelled from Medina by the Muslims. And both of them have expanded. Israel has now expanded into Gaza. It has totally destroyed Gaza, committed genocide, killed more than 70,000 people, including 30,000 children. It has destroyed all hospitals, all educational facilities, all housing, and is now, even now, in control of 70% of Gaza. But what is not being reported in the international press is the fact that the settlers in West Bank are pushing Palestinians out of the West Bank. And the Israeli government is supporting them to the hilt by announcing 104 further illegal settlements in the West Bank. If you look at the actual area under the control of the Palestinian Authority, it comes to only about 28% of Gaza. In the Oslo Accords, Israel already secured control of much of Gaza, much of West Bank, and the Palestinian Authority was confined to about 28 to 30%. Now even that area is being taken away from the Palestinian Authority, and West Bank effectively has been divided into two parts. So it's being surrounded on all sides by Israeli settlers who are becoming more aggressive by the day. They're burning Palestinian fields, they're destroying Palestinian houses and taking over their lands and property even in the West Bank. But is the world talking about it? The answer is no. We are only talking about Iran-US war. And we have forgotten that Israel was the one which started the war on February 28th, and in fact in June 2025, when it bombed Iran for 12 days, followed by intensive bombing by the United States for one night on all nuclear facilities. And in June 2025, it was the American bombing which then persuaded Israel to stop the war at that time. But then Israel restarted the war on 28th of February. Today, Israel is in occupation of practically the entire West Bank, 70% of Gaza. It has taken over southern Lebanon, territory in southern Lebanon. It has moved beyond the Golan Heights, which are under its illegal occupation. It has moved beyond the UN buffer zone, which was established beyond the Golan Heights. It has moved into Syrian territory, and the world has remained silent. Because the regime installed in Syria is a pro-West regime. and they don't want to take on or criticize Israel. So both countries, India and Israel, are pursuing this policy of expansionism and enlarging their territory, one under the pretext of Akhand Bharat, which never existed in history, and the other on the pretext that this was a land granted to Moses and to the Israelis by God 3,000 years ago or more. What are Pakistan's options today? I have heard two speakers today saying that Pakistan committed many mistakes after 2019, let's say. But if you read the white paper of 1974 on Kashmir, which was written by a Kashmiri, Mr. Yusuf Bach, who was an advisor of Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. In 1974, he identifies a number of missteps that Pakistan had taken to weaken its own case. So the mistakes did not start after 2019. A number of mistakes were committed even prior to that. And in one of his letters, Pandit Nehru wrote that Pakistan is very keen for a solution of Jammu and Kashmir, but I am not. It was never the intention of Pandit Nehru to hold a plebiscite in Jammu and Kashmir. He was always buying time. He was lying through his teeth in Indian Parliament and before the international community. So even to suggest that the Congress party will have a better attitude towards the Kashmiri people or towards the territory that they covered is totally false assumption, and we should get rid of it as quickly as we can. We have many innocents amongst our midst, and I would suggest that they take a dose of reality. Now let's see first of all internally what we can do, and then I will talk very briefly of externally. Internally, I think basically where we have committed grievous faults against the Kashmiri people, or by not empowering them. For example, Gilgit, which was then called Gilgit-Baltistan, was called the northern areas. The Gilgit scouts cleared the Dogra forces from Gilgit on 1st of November 1947 under the leadership of Major Brown. Before that, till 1st of August of 1947, Gilgit was a British residency under the control of the British resident. On 1st of August, the British, before leaving, reverted the residency back to the Maharaja. On 1st of November, the Gilgit scouts threw out Ghansara Singh, Brigadier Ghansara Singh, who had come to take control of Gilgit-Baltistan, and wrote a letter to the government of Pakistan, saying that Gilgit-Baltistan would like to join Pakistan and please accept our accession to Pakistan. We did not respond. We sent one gentleman by the name of Mr. Ismail, who, according to some reports, was at the level of a Tehsildar, to control the area, the entire area of Gilgit-Baltistan. That was the kind of importance that we attached to it. But then we attached Gilgit-Baltistan to Jammu and Kashmir because at that time Sheikh Abdullah was in ascendancy. His national conference had many Muslim adherents. The Muslim conference was losing popularity, and we thought that the vast Muslim majority of Gilgit-Baltistan would vote in favor of Pakistan in a plebiscite which was to be organized or which would be organized by the United Nations. That was our first mistake. We accepted the fact that India was operating in good faith. It was not, it never has, it never will. You have all heard, even today, even recently, Indian statements on Kashmir. Rajnath, the Indian Defense Minister, speaks of only one issue remaining, and that is retaking of POK from Pakistan. And he says that India is getting ready to do so. So let's not assume that we have not been warned, and let's prepare to defend ourselves. And how do we best defend ourselves? By empowering the people of Gilgit and Baltistan and people of Azad Kashmir to run their own affairs, to provide them representation in your National Assembly, in your decision-making processes, to assure them that they have a voice in decision-making about their own future and that their future lies with Pakistan. What have we done instead? We have a Ministry of Kashmir Affairs in which a joint secretary used to run policy on Kashmir, internal administrative policy on Kashmir. And because it is a contested area, the armed forces of Pakistan have to defend the borders of Azad Kashmir. They have played a role also in controlling Azad Kashmir. The attention of the international community, howsoever limited, was concentrated on the atrocities that India was committed in Indian-occupied Kashmir. Today, if you listen to BBC News, they are talking of what is happening in Azad Kashmir. And we have brought it upon ourselves by not talking and by not empowering the people who matter. The Joint Awami Action Committee made a number of demands, some reasonable, some unreasonable. Reasonable demands were accepted, unreasonable demands were not accepted, and rightly so. But what I wonder is that if their popularity is so strong in Azad Kashmir, why haven't they contested the elections in Azad Kashmir? Why haven't they declared themselves to be a political party of Azad Kashmir and contested elections? I think, for example, it was a mistake on the part of Pakistan to allow Pakistani national parties like the PMLN and VPP and PTI and others to start contesting elections in Azad Kashmir. We should have allowed the Kashmiris to form their own political parties and hold their own elections and make their own decisions. We didn't do that. But if there is an indigenous party which has support in Kashmir, Azad Kashmir, why don't they form a political party? Perhaps Ms. Farzana Yaqub could reply that, answer that question in the Q&A session. What are our external options? We have spoken of 2019 and the so-called 3 Security Council meetings. These were not meetings, let's be quite clear about it. These were informal consultations behind closed doors. The Security Council always holds informal consultations before issues come to a formal meeting. And in those informal consultations, permanent members of the Security Council, United Kingdom and France have been named, and to an extent the United States did not want to hold a formal session of the UN Security Council. So no formal session of the UN Security Council was held, and therefore no resolution could be moved. The Security Council was not even prepared to accept a presidential statement by holding a formal session, because normally, if a resolution is not forthcoming, the President of the Security Council can issue a presidential statement which is acceptable to all members. Even that was not done. That was 2019. Today, Kashmir is off the radar of the world. We should be realistic about it. The world is engaged today in trying to find a solution to the Iran-US conflict, to the economic damage that the closure of Strait of Hormuz and now Bab al-Mandab is doing to the world economy. It is thinking long term of a new solution in the Middle East. It is talking of Palestine. But nobody is talking of Kashmir. And the difficulties in Azad Kashmir are being reported internationally. So in fact, there is a negative turn of events which we have to recognize and then to rectify. Somebody has said, do not try to kill a fly with a hammer. So let's not address all problems militarily or by the use of force. General Majid has written an article today on the need for dialogue. I think there is a greater need for dialogue in Azad Kashmir also, and we should follow that. Let me end with then equivocation. Since I do not see a clear way ahead, Pakistan will continue to make efforts to keep the issue of Kashmir alive as far as it can. But let's not expect that a solution is forthcoming next year or a year hence. The Kashmiris have been struggling since 1931, if not earlier. But then nations struggle for many more years before they find and secure their rights. The Israelis were, for example, in exile for 2,000 years, and their slogan was, "See you next year in Jerusalem." The Kashmiris may have to wait for maybe a decade, or maybe 2 decades. They have to keep their struggle alive. We have to keep their struggle alive because they are a part of us. And unless we do our utmost to be with them, stand with them, support them, and provide them all the support that we can in international fora, their struggle will suffer. So let's ensure that their struggle does not suffer. Shakespeare, in a play, Julius Caesar, spoke about through Brutus talking to Cassius when contemplating the interplay of fate and free will. And I will quote it for you. "There's a tide in the affairs of men, which taken at the flood leads to fortune. Omitted, all the voyages of their life are bound in shallows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves or lose our ventures. We haven't been able to succeed so far, but I hope and I pray that the new generation, the younger generation that will take over, will also take the current when it serves Pakistan and the Kashmiris best. I thank you.
Excellent.
Come on. Guru in chief is in charge. Second, there, brilliant speech, excellent. Sir.
We'll take a few questions from the audience. The gentleman at the back.
السلام علیکم جی مشاہد صاحب چلے گئے بہت اچھا ہوتا اگر وہ بیٹھے ہوتے تو اظہر حجازی مخاطب ہوں جرنلسٹ ہوں HDN TV سے بہت مختصر اور جامع سوال ہے آپ لوگوں کے لیے سب سے پہلے تو ہم کشمیر پالیسی ڈسکس کر رہے ہیں آزاد کشمیر اور مقبوضہ کشمیر جب ہم نے بات کی کہ ہمارے دشمن ہیں بھارت اور اسرائیل تو ظاہر ہے دشمن دشمنی ہی کرے گا چھاؤں یا شہد تو ہمیں پیش نہیں کرے گا یہ تو انڈرسٹوڈ سی بات ہے اب مسئلہ یہ ہے کہ ہمیں کیا کرنا ہے یہاں پہ بیٹھے ہوئے لوگوں نے بات کی انڈین فلموں کی تو اس کی ایک میں مثال دوں گا کہ ہمارے لیے ہمارے جو ملک میں فلمیں بنی ان میں کیا دکھایا گیا اگر میں اپنا بچپن دیکھوں تو ایک دھواں ڈرامہ تھا جس کو عاشر عظیم صاحب نے بنایا تھا اس کے بعد انہوں نے فلم مالک بنائی بہت سے اگر آپ انڈین فلمیں دیکھیں تو ان میں جو وہ پولیس ACP اور جو پولیس کمشنر تھے ان کو گندی گندی گالیاں دی گئیں جو کہ یہاں مناسب نہیں فلموں میں ان کو دکھایا گیا کہ ان کو گندی گندی گالیاں دی جاتی ہیں سسٹم میں شعور دینے کے لیے ان کو سیدھا کرنے کے لیے لیکن جب عاشر عظیم نے فلم مالک بنائی تو اس کے لیے ہم نے یہ زمین تنگ کر دی اور وہ کینیڈا بھاگ گیا اب ہم اگلی بات کریں گے کشمیر کی کہ جو مختصر سی تھوڑی سی کنفیوژن آزاد کشمیر میں ہے وہ بہت خطرناک ہے میں سمجھتا ہوں اس لیے کہ اگر وہ پنجاب تک یا دوسرے صوبوں تک آتی ہے تو پھر ہمارے لیے کیا ایسا نہیں کہ کسی ریولوشنری کی طرف جانا پڑے گا جو کہ ہمارے لیے متحمل نہیں ہے اور اگر میں ارباب اختیار سے یہ بھی پوچھنا چاہوں گا کہ ہم اگر بیوروکریسی کی بات کریں تو جب پاکستان بنا اس وقت بیوروکریسی بہت کمزور تھی بہت غریب تھی لیکن مخلص تھی محنتی تھی تو انہوں نے کیا کیا کہ ہم نے جرمنی جیسے پاورفل کنٹری کو قرضے دیے آج ہمارے پاس پیسہ تو بہت ہے بیوروکریسی کے پاس تنخواہیں بھی بہت ہیں اور بہت سارے چیزیں ہیں کہ جو ہمیں مل رہی ہیں اور ہم پاکستانی جو ارباب اختیار ہیں اسپیشلی اقتدار والے یعنی سیاستدان اور بیوروکریسی وہ آپس میں یہ ہے کہ ہم ہر جو پاکستانی ہے بہت سارے جو کشمیری ہیں ان کی اگر مطالبات کی بات کی جائے تو وہ مجھ جیسے عام آدمی پاکستانی کے بھی مطالبات یہی ہیں کہ ہمیں ہمارا حق دیا جانا چاہیے
آپ تقریر فرما رہے ہیں
سر بس آخری تو میں یہ چاہوں گا کہ کیا اگر کوئی ایسا ارباب اختیار کوئی ایسا اچھا اقدام کریں کہ جو کشمیری ہیں ان کو میز پہ لایا جائے ڈائلاگ کے لیے بہت شکریہ
تھینک یو ایک تو یہاں پہ کوئی صاحب اقتدار نہیں بیٹھا ہوا اس لیے آئی کی ناٹ آئی تھنک فرزانہ صاحب ول اگری ود می آواز آ رہی ہے وی کی ناٹ اسپیک آن behalf of the people in power. We are only here, number one, to recall what has happened in Kashmir and to suggest possibilities of future action and to suggest that we should set our own house in order. اس سے زیادہ ہم نہیں کر سکتے، آپ بھی نہیں کر سکتے. آپ میڈیا سے تعلق رکھتے ہیں، یقیناً آپ نے آرٹیکل لکھے ہوں گے. اگر کوئی لکھے ہیں تو ذرا ایپری کے ساتھ شیئر کر دیجئے کہ آپ نے ارباب اختیار کو کیا کیا مشورے دیے، اور اگر نہیں دیے تو پھر زیادہ لمبی تقریریں نہ کیا کریں. یا تو اٹھ کے بولے، اور اگر بول نہیں سکتے، ڈرتے ہیں، تو پھر اس قسم کے فورم میں تقریر نہ کریں. Until such time as the people of Pakistan are willing to stand up for their own rights، وہ کو عرش سے اتر کے آپ کے پاس نہیں آئے گے، ٹھیک ہے؟ نہ دنیا نے آپ کو لے کے دینے. If you think that you are being deprived of your rights, you have to stand up for them. Are you prepared to stand up for them, or do you want others to stand up for you? اور اگر کھڑے ہونے کے لیے تیار ہیں تو وہ جو مالک کے آپ نے مثال دی اس کی طرح آپ بھی کھڑے ہو جائیں، جو قربانی دینی پڑے وہ دیں. یہ قربانی کے بغیر کچھ حاصل نہیں ہوا کبھی دنیا میں. حضرت ابراہیم کے وقت سے جب اللہ میاں نے ان کے بیٹے کی قربانی مانگ لی تھی، قربانی کرنے جا رہے ہیں اپنی، اچھا یعنی کہ بھاگ رہے ہیں ملک سے. ماشاءاللہ، یہ سب سے بزدلانہ حرکت ہے، ملک اپنے سے بھاگ جانا. That means that you are in love with yourself and not with your country. So don't give others lectures when you are not prepared to do anything yourself. Next question. آپ بھی کچھ کہنا؟
سر نے ایک بات پوچھی تھی، تو میرے خیال میں اس کا میں جو پولیٹیکل پارٹیز کا انہوں نے سوال پوچھا تھا. ایک تو یہ ہے کہ جی جو 2 عدد پولیٹیکل پارٹیز ہیں جن کی ایک سیٹ ہے کشمیر کی اسمبلی میں، اس کو تھوڑا جی وہ ہے جی، ایک تو ہے جے کے پی پی جموں کشمیر پیپلز پارٹی، اور ایک ہے مسلم کانفرنس. ان سب کی ایک سیٹ. اور جب یہ بات کی جاتی ہے کہ انڈیجنس پولیٹیکل پارٹیز ہونی چاہیے تھی اور پاکستان سے پولیٹیکل پارٹیز نہیں جانی چاہیے تھی، تو اس میں، اور یہ بارہا اس پر کانورسیشن ہوئی ہے جس کا کہ ایوری ون ہیز دیئر اون پوائنٹ آف ویو. لیکن دیکھیے آپ اتنا ادرائزیشن کیوں کر رہے ہیں؟ کیوں نہیں جا سکتی؟ آزاد جموں کشمیر نہیں ہے پاکستان کا حصہ؟ جی بھی نہیں ہے تو ٹھیک ہے، پھر بالکل اس کو سیپریٹ رکھیں. لیکن کسی قسم کی تو آپ کی کہیں نہ کہیں تو معاملات ساتھ الائن ہونے چاہیے نا. تو اس لیے at least when it comes to any kind of entities where people are uniting AJK with Pakistan, I'm okay with it. ٹھیک ہے، کیونکہ ہیں پاکستان کی پارٹیز، پاکستان میں رجسٹرڈ ہیں پاکستان کی پارٹیز، but then they are registered in AJK, and that is why we the Kashmiris can contest elections if we choose to be part of those political parties. اس میں ہمیں بڑا خیال رکھنا ہوگا، کیونکہ ابھی ریسنٹلی کچھ ایسی باتیں ہوئی ہیں الیکشنز میں کہ جن کی وجہ سے جو بیئر منیمم انڈرسٹینڈنگ ہے اس کو کافی اسکیو کر دیا گیا ہے. اس میں یہ ہے کہ جی امپریشن یہ دیا جا رہا ہے کہ جیسے جو مہاجرین کی جو سیٹس ہیں اس پر بھی کشمیری الیکشن لڑتے ہیں اور کشمیری ووٹ ڈالتے ہیں. امپریشن یہ دیا جا رہا ہے کہ غیر کشمیری یا پتہ نہیں کیا انڈرسٹینڈنگ ہے. یہاں پر سسٹم ٹھیک کرنے کی یقیناً ضرورت ہے. الیکٹورل پروسیس پورے پاکستان میں ٹھیک کرنے کی ضرورت ہے، صرف کشمیر میں نہیں. الیکٹورل پروسیس ریفارمز چاہیے بالکل جیسے کہ باقی علاقوں میں. اچھا، لوگوں کی پروٹیسٹ یا ان کی ناراضگی پاکستان میں ہوتی رہی ہے، ٹھیک ہے. 2018 اور پھر 21 کے بعد سے جس طرح سے یہاں پر کچھ پروٹیسٹ ہوئی تھی انہوں نے وہاں پہنچنا تھا. بائی دا وے جو آزاد کشمیر میں آج ہو رہا ہے اس کو کچھ لوگ عرب اسپرنگس کے ساتھ جو ہے کمپیئر کر رہے ہیں. کہ لائک ادھر بھی جین زیڈ نکلی اور انہوں نے پھر چینج کیا اور یوں ہوتے ہوتے ویو. سو یو نو پیپل آر کمپیئرنگ اٹ ود اے لاٹ. اور جیسا کہ میں نے کہا تھا کہ ہندوستان میں وہ ہو رہا ہے کمپیریزن جس طرح سے بھی جیسے کرنا چاہیں, لیکن بہرحال جو انڈیجینس پولیٹیکل پارٹیز ہیں ان کے پاس ووٹ بینک نہیں. ان کے پاس جتنا ووٹ بینک ہے وہ ٹرانسلیٹ ہو کر ان کو لیجسلیٹو اسمبلی میں مل رہا ہے, جس میں کہ ایک عدد سیٹ ایم سی کی ہے اور ایک جے کے پی پی ہے. جے کے پی پی کون سی والی ہے؟ جس میں جو کہ سردار ابراہیم نے رجسٹر کروائی تھی, اور اب ان کے جو پوتے ہیں حسن ابراہیم صاحب وہ اس پہ جیت کر راولا کوٹ, جہاں پر اس وقت پروٹیسٹ ہو رہی ہے, پروٹیسٹرز جہاں پر کنٹین کیے گئے ہیں, وہ جو سٹی ہے وہ ان کا حلقہ ہے اور وہ وہاں سے جیت کر وہاں پر جاتے. مسلم کانفرنس کے ہیں جی سردار عتیق صاحب, اس وقت ایم ایل اے ہیں اور آگے بھی امید ہے کہ وہ جیتیں گے. وہ ہیں سردار قیوم صاحب کے بیٹے. ٹھیک ہے جی, سردار قیوم اور سردار ابراہیم یہ ہمارے کشمیر کے لیے بہت بڑی اسٹالورٹ پرسنالٹیز ہیں, جنہوں نے قضیہ کشمیر, کشمیر کی آزادی, کشمیر کا فیصلہ اور کشمیر کے کام پر بہت زیادہ محنت بھی کی ہے اور دنیا میں جانے جاتے. یہ دو نام میں اس لیے آپ کے سامنے پیش کر رہی ہوں کیونکہ ان کے خلاف بھی کچھ نیریٹو ایسا تیار کیا گیا ہے اور باتیں ہوئی ہیں جو کہ پھر بعد میں جیک کے سوشل میڈیا اکاؤنٹ سے ڈیلیٹ کر دی گئی تھی. میرے خیال میں یہ ایک اچھی بات تھی کہ انہوں نے ڈیلیٹ کر لیا. ایموشنل ہو کے انہوں نے ان کو بھی رگڑ ڈالا کہ یہ انہوں نے عذاب میں ہمیں ڈال دیا ہے, یہ آزاد جموں کشمیر کا خطہ وغیرہ وغیرہ آئیں بائیں شائیں ہوئی تھی جو کچھ بھی, بٹ دین اٹ واز ریمووڈ which is good کہ آپ اپنے بزرگوں کو ملائن نہ کریں. سو پولیٹیکل پارٹیز کا یہ حال ہے. پرسنل ایکسپیرینس میں آپ سے یہ شیئر کر لیتی ہوں کہ جی why are other political parties like نون لیگ, پیپلز پارٹی کے پاس زیادہ سیٹس کیوں ہیں؟ کیونکہ جو اسپیس ہے نا گروتھ کی ود ان the انڈیجنس پارٹیز وہ نہ ہونے کے برابر تھی. میرے والد صاحب جو پریزیڈنٹ بھی رہے ہیں, پرائم منسٹر بھی رہے ہیں, 2006 میں ان کو مسلم کانفرنس نے پارٹی کا ٹکٹ نہیں دیا. 2001 میں وہ جیتے تھے, 2006 میں ان کو نہیں دیا گیا, تو وہ آزاد الیکشن لڑے اور وہ جیت گئے, اور اس کے بعد پھر پیپلز پارٹی کے ٹکٹ پر الیکشن لڑتے رہے. تو یہ کچھ پولیٹیکل ریالٹیز ہیں, اور ہر انڈیویجول جو اس وقت ایم ایل اے ہے اس کی اگر آپ پاسٹ اس کا دیکھ لیں تو کچھ ایسا اس کے ساتھ ہوا ہوتا ہے, اس سے لگتا ہے اس کو اس پاس اسپیس نہیں ہے ایگزسٹنگ پولیٹیکل پارٹی میں, تو وہ وہاں پر گیا ہے. بٹ اس سے اچھا جیک کو کہا گیا ملٹیپل ٹائمز, انہیں کہا گیا کہ آپ کو الیکشن کنٹیسٹ کرنا چاہیے. جیک کیوں اتنی پاپولر ہے؟ دیکھیے اگر میں بھی یا آپ میں سے کوئی بھی بجلی کا ریٹ 3 روپے نوٹیفائی کروا سکتا ہے, آٹا آدھے قیمت پر آپ کو دلوا سکتا ہے, تو آپ مقبول نہیں ہوں گے تو اور کیا ہوں گے؟ کیا ہم کر سکتے ہیں ایز اے منسٹر؟ یقین جانیے میں ایسا نہیں کر سکتی تھی, میں سوچ بھی نہیں سکتی تھی کہ میں اتنا بحث مباحثہ کروں یا اتنی لڑائی کروں کہ میں بجلی کے نرخ کم کروا سکوں. نہیں, لیکن ان لوگوں نے یہ کر دکھایا. اس لیے پاپولیرٹی میں تو کوئی مطلب یعنی کہ کمپٹیشن ہی نہیں ہے, بٹ اٹ واز دیئر ڈیسیژن کہ دے ڈونٹ وانٹ ٹو کنٹیسٹ الیکشنز. یہ ٹریڈرز یونین ہے جو کہ سٹارٹ ہوئی تھی, ساتھ میں جو نیشنلسٹ ہے, خیر آپ سب کو پتا ہے کہ وہ جیک کی اپنی ہے, بٹ اٹ واز دیئر انٹرنل ڈیسیژن ناٹ ٹو کنٹیسٹ الیکشنز. ادروائز اف دے وڈ دے آر دا موسٹ پاپولر پارٹی. اور کوئی بھی پارٹی یا کوئی انسان اگر مہنگائی میں کنسیڈریبل کمی لا سکتا ہے, انفلیشن کو ایڈریس کر سکتا ہے, آپ اس کا مقابلہ نہیں کر سکتے.
ایک بات regarding the empowerment of people of J&K, Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and also GB, Gilgit Baltistan. 1992 में the Foreign Office NICE prepared a summary and sent it to the Prime Minister to empower both Azad Kashmir and GB. اور ان کو شیئر دیں نیشنل اسمبلی میں ان کو سیٹس ہیں. سمری وینٹ ٹو پرائم منسٹر نواز شریف صاحب, انہوں نے کنسلٹ کیا, انہوں نے کہا جی بی والے تو مانتے ہیں, سردار قیوم نہیں مانتے. سو اٹ فیل تھرو. 2012 میں وی پریپیئرڈ اے بکلیٹ to empower the people of Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, which listed all the constitutional changes that needed to be made in the Constitution of Pakistan to provisionally allow provincial status to both these territories and to give them seats in the National Assembly and all related bodies like IPRI, like Council of Common Interest and others. वो रिपोर्ट हमने फॉरेन ऑफिस को दी, बाकी सर्कुलेट भी की. On the basis of that, Sartaj Aziz साहब ने एक कमेटी एस्टैब्लिश की. Sartaj Aziz committee, they prepared a report and submitted it to the government. The government sat on it. इमरान खान साहब की हुकूमत आई, उन्होंने वो रिपोर्ट फरोग नसीम को पकड़ा दी, who was the law minister and who was not aware of the intricacies of the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. उन्होंने उस रिपोर्ट को बिगाड़ दिया. हमने तो उसका सिंपल सोल्यूशन दिया था कि आर्टिकल 1 में लिखे, pending the holding of a plebiscite in the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir, Azad Kashmir and Gilgit and Baltistan will be represented in the National Assembly of Pakistan and other bodies as follows. अब फिर जो भी changes हों, वो इमरान खान साहब में नहीं होने दी, which was in a way good, क्योंकि उससे हमारा केस compromise होता. But we have been sitting on this issue for decades now. कि उनको एम्पावर नहीं करना, हम यहां से इस्लामाबाद से उनको रूल करें. बताओ, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन करें.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ariba Shehzadi and I'm an anchor person from Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. दोनों पैनलिस्ट में से कोई भी जवाब दे सकते हैं. 2019 में जब इंडिया ने रिवोक किया आर्टिकल 370 and 35A, that was a time when Pakistan was having some success in its relations with the Afghanistan. So we all know about the erroneous and reckless pursuit of India in bleeding Pakistan through 1,000 cuts, and often analysts link that revocation of the article with the India's reckless and erroneous pursuits. So do you think that what we are witnessing today in the Azad Jammu and Kashmir, which the state narrative is calling India backed and India funding, is also one of those cuts? Do you believe that? And secondly, Inamul Haq Saab, you mentioned about the BBC's selective reporting on the AJK issue today, what we are seeing, and not on what India is doing in the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So do you think not only BBC's selective reporting, but also we have recently seen that UN is not doing something on Balochistan issue, and also in their 1267 list, they are not...
So, for UN में क्या करना?
Sir, UN...
What should the UN be doing on Balochistan?
No, UN is not sanctioning the BLA in its 1267 sanctions list. And also there is selective reporting by the Amnesty International on the issues in Balochistan as well. So I am trying to link this all together with the Islamophobia that West is trying to demonstrate. Do you think this is the demonstration of Islamophobia from these international organizations? 2 questions. Thank you.
ये जो आपने सिलेक्टिव रिपोर्टिंग की बात की है, तो इंडियन ऑक्यूपाइड कश्मीर पर बीबीसी ने, कुनन पोशपूरा और दे हैव डन देयर फेयर शेयर, राइट. यहाँ पर हमने कुछ किया हो या ना हो, उन्होंने किया है. आज के दिन क्या कर रहे हैं और कितना कर रहे हैं, उसके बारे में मैं आई विल लीव इट टू द ऑडियंस. आप ये ज़रूर देख लिए. अच्छा, बीबीसी, CNN, ये इसराइल जो फ़लस्तीन में कर रहा है, इन्होंने अपने बायसेस बिल्कुल सामने रख दिए हुए हैं. तो ये खुशफहमी मेरे ख्याल में हमें नहीं रखनी चाहिए कि जर्नलिज्म एज द फिफ्थ पिलर ऑफ द स्टेट, ये कहानी जो है वो सिर्फ हमें बेची गई है, करता कोई नहीं है, ठीक है. सो द बायस इज वेरी क्लियर. Israel has succeeded in unveiling all the Western tools that are used to, subjugate the South, the global South. तो journalism is one of them. तो उसमें अच्छा, दूसरा जो कनेक्टिविटी ऑफ हाउ इंडिया माइट बी डूइंग दिस, देखें, बहसत कश्मीरी मैं कभी भी नहीं कह सकती कि हाँ वो दहशतगर्द, मैं नहीं कह सकती. अगर किसी के पास सबूत है वो सबूत लाए और उस पर बात करें, लेकिन हम जो वहां के रिहायशी हम ये नहीं कह सकते. सो ये बात हुई है. जो हमारी पुलिस ने कुछ प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंसेस की हैं, उन्होंने कहा है अगर वही इस कजिए पर बात करें तो बेहतर होगा. लेकिन मैं ना पहले कभी कहा है, ना आज और ना इसके बाद मैं ये कभी नहीं कह सकती कि हाँ जी हमारे लोग जो हैं गद्दार हैं या हमारे लोग कुछ ऐसा काम कर रहे हैं. हाँ, जो कोई कर रहा है उसके बारे में पुलिस उसको पकड़े और लोगों को दिखाए, और उसके एविडेंस आपको दिखाने होंगे. ऐसे आप नहीं कर सकते. अब जो हालात इतने खराब हैं, आप लोगों को उठाकर गायब नहीं कर सकते. अगर आपके पास एविडेंस है तो आपको लोगों को बताना पड़ेगा, वरना अपने लोगों को जो है ना, बात ही माने ना माने लेकिन उनको गद्दार ना कहे, इससे किसी को कोई फायदा नहीं होता.
First thing first, never expect concessions from an enemy. So if the Indians did something in 2019, even before that, let's start in 1947, they occupied parts of Jammu and Kashmir also. And since then, they have never left that occupation. 1919, as every speaker here said, it was a part of a manifesto of BJP that they are going to take this step. If the government at that time did not take any countermeasures, then that was a weakness on the part of our government. The Indians had made their intentions very clear. And maybe you can argue retrospectively that we should have taken the issue up internationally and raised a hue and cry. I do not know how far it would have succeeded. Might have succeeded, it might not have. But the BJP was determined to take that step. They had made it clear in 2014. They made it clear in their manifesto in 2019. They gave you 5 years, in fact, to do something about it. So if you did not, do you expect that your enemy will give you concessions? Answer is no. ये जो आप इस्लामोफोबिया के बारे में जिक्र फरमा रही है ना, ये एक तो इसको ओवरप्ले नहीं करना चाहिए. If we have internal problems, let us find internal solutions. It is very easy to say that ये हमारा कसूर नहीं है जी, फलां का कसूर है. Easiest way is to shift blame. Unless we begin to accept our own mistakes and rectify them, we will always be shifting blame to somebody else. It's either Afghanistan, or it is India, or it is Iran, or it is United States, or it is somebody else, or maybe Israel is going to do something about it. Let us first of all see whether what we are doing is right. Can we do something else? Why is the world not supporting you on a particular issue? One reason is weakness. Smaller, weaker, poorer, developing countries never get the support that they need. If we are economically weak, if we are stuck with our internal political problems, if we lack internal cohesion, if 2 of your provinces are under daily attack either by insurgents or by terrorists, and then you are creating new problems by raising new issues internally which may or may not be necessary at this stage. अब बलूचिस्तान में हो रही है इंसर्जेंसी, आपने फरमाया BLA को UN सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल ने क्यों टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नहीं किया एक्सेप्ट? UN सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल की सैंक्शंस कमिटीज हैं under different resolutions. We brought it under, I think, 1373. Usme any country can place a hold on it pending certain clarifications. And some countries have demanded clarifications, which we will offer, and eventually, inshallah, hopefully, they will be declared a terrorist organization. But we have to offer that proof to the international community also. अब आज़ाद कश्मीर में भी प्रॉब्लम्स हो रहे हैं. अब नया हमने सिलसिला शुरू कर दिया परसों तरसों से कि जी हमें तो बहुत सी डिविजन्स चाहिए, वी शुड हैव टू मैनी 32 provinces or 20 provinces. What is the purpose of this move at this moment when you are beset with problems like Balochistan, like KPK terrorism, like Azad Kashmir problems? आप एक और सिलसिला शुरू कर रहे हैं. Are we deflecting other problems by raising new issues? लेकिन ये हमें नहीं भूलना चाहिए कि दूसरे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं होते, वो वहीं पे रहते हैं, एक नया प्रॉब्लम शुरू हो जाता है. So first of all, curtail your problems, reduce them in number, resolve them, and then move forward. Spreading your problems, your own problems, will only create problems for you internationally also. हमें अल्लाह मियां ने बड़ी कामयाबियां दी हैं, but we are maybe overdoing it also at times. अब हमारे मोहल्ले में एक यादगार फतह बन रही है, बड़ी अजीम शान बिल्डिंग बन गई है. वो मेरा ख्याल है 14 अगस्त को इनॉग्रेट होगी. एक गरीब मुल्क को यह ज़ेब नहीं देता कि इस किस्म के फजूल खर्चियां करें. हमारी ब्यूरोक्रेसी, हमारे पॉलिटिशियंस, when you talk of fiscal discipline in this country, nobody is interested in that. When you talk of economic distribution of resources, nobody is interested in that. You are in full elite capture. उससे आप मूव आउट नहीं कर सकते और अपने लिए नए प्रॉब्लम्स खड़े कर रहे हैं. If, for example, KP में the federally administrated areas there, they were economically well off, they were educationally well off, they were integrated into the main society, do you think that there would be too many suicide bombers? आपने अपने लोगों को तो एजुकेशन ही नहीं दी. Who produces a suicide bomber? एक अनपढ़ मौलवी प्रोड्यूस करता है ना. वो उसको पढ़ाता है कि जी आप जन्नत में जाएंगे, सीधे इधर से आप उड़ेंगे, सीधे हूरों के दरमियान जाके बैठ जाएंगे. वो शहर का बच्चा कहता है कि चलो जी यहाँ पे तो कुछ नहीं मिल रहा, अगली दुनिया में तो हूरें मिलेंगे, चलो मेरे खानदान को कुछ पैसे पीछे मिल जाएंगे, मुझे हूरें मिल जाएंगे. So you have to educate your own people, provide them an economic stake in this country, which we have not done. The rich are getting richer, the poor are becoming poorer. आप कहते हैं हमारी GDP 3.7% बढ़ गई, 2.5% उसमें से पॉपुलेशन इंक्रीज निकाल दीजिए, बाकी 1.2% रह गया. 1.2% से कहीं ज्यादा अमीर लोगों को मिली है. गरीब तो अब 45% के ऊपर पहुंच गए अकॉर्डिंग टू द वर्ल्ड बैंक. 45% of the people are below the poverty line today, according to the World Bank poverty line. 29% are below the poverty line today, according to the IMF poverty line. Look after them. उनको नहीं look after करना. And we have huge parasite classes who are doing nothing, taking money from charities and using them on themselves or raising lashkars. Why do we allow that? So well, let's set our own house in order. Then we should expect the world to do something for us, to pay attention to us. If you are economically strong, you will be respected in the world. If you are economically weak, internally broken, nobody will look at you. Islamophobia कुछ नहीं होता. आपके पास पैसे हो, आपके people, if your people are happy, economically well developed, well educated, they will be respected all over the world. ये करें ना सब कुछ, हमने जो 78 साल से तो कुछ नहीं किया.
Sir, just a clarification in continuation to yours. आपने मेरा ख्याल है ये BLA के context में you asked about 1267 कि वो उसको why it was not declared a terrorist and because of so it's not got nothing to do with Islamophobia. You read 1267 very carefully. It was meant for Osama bin Laden, and originally once it was. And then there were two more, 1989 and 2253, which expanded the envelope to include Daesh and ISK and others. China and Pakistan moved this into UN to declare Majid Brigade and BLA as terrorist entities under 1267. There is a central list of terrorist entities, which are Al-Qaeda affiliated, including Daesh, etc. But there is a technical hold on that. You cannot link BLA with that, and for that you have to provide evidence, and providing evidence is very difficult. So that is why it has been put on hold. So we will give the evidence and get that. But Islamophobia has got nothing to do with that.
माइक्रोफोन दे उनको, उनकी आवाज नहीं पहुंच रही.
Sorry, I was linking the Islamophobia with the selective reporting of such a few international organizations and institutions. As far as the Security Council monitoring report, and there are so many reports in which they are declaring that the terrorism is happening in Pakistan, and they are condemning it. They are reporting that the lives that has been sent to hell at the behest of these terrorist organizations, and including US, Australia, and UK. There are countries who are putting the BLA and such organizations in their terrorist list in the FTO, foreign terrorist organizations. But on the same page, when it comes to declaring them under the 1267 sanctions, they're putting hold on it. So that is, you can say this is a dubiety, or these are the double standards. But as far as Islamophobia, I was trying to link it with the BBC's selective and Amnesty International selective reporting. Yeah.
BBC is a news organization. वो topical news आपको दे रही है. They are reporting on something that is happening in Azad Kashmir. वो analysis नहीं दे रही, वो कश्मीर के इशू के ऊपर judgment नहीं पास कर रही. तो इसलिए उसको इस्लामोफोबिया से ना लिंक करो.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the conclusion of today's proceedings. I thank you all